I'm back. Hey, Wolfpack, Catastrophe's back with another surprise tier list. This time we're doing another movie series, a partial horror series, but one I'm still counting, the Terminator Saga. Yep, we got all 6 Terminator movies plus the 2 TV shows. So, good to be back, Wolfpack. This time I'm doing a short tier list stream. At least I hope it's short. I'm sure the counter will say 8 hours when this is done, but yeah. Wanted to talk to you about another fun, quote-unquote horror series. At least it started out as horror, until the franchise started moving on, becoming more of an action sci-fi series, in due part thanks to T2, but yeah, I do count the first 2 movies as technically horror movies, but Terminator, I would say, is more sci-fi action slash horror. The Terminator franchise is a franchise that has definitely gone through the ringer lately, but there's a lot of fun stuff to talk about, especially because at their core, these are dumb fun Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, which we can all enjoy. Hey, John Smith. Hey, my first person talking made it. Yeah, gonna be talking about all the Terminator movies and the TV shows. Yes, we do have at least 2 TV shows. So, I do kind of agree. Terminator is a great 2-movie saga. Then we had a lot of garbage sequels and 2 TV spin-offs. So Terminator probably shouldn't have become a franchise considering how far it's fallen, but I do think it's fun. The basic premise, the performances, the action, the CGI, the attempts at making groundbreaking sci-fi action movies are definitely welcomed. And of course, Arnold Schwarzenegger being a badass is always a fun sight to behold. Yeah, I kind of have the same question when Rob reviewed Dark Fate, the only one I hate. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, Cinematic Venom. He talked about Dark Fate, and let's just say it was not a good movie, but we'll talk about that later. First 2 are peak, but Dark Fate is the only one I hate. Well, I also don't have much nice things to say about Genesis, but we'll get there. Hey, Akira, glad you made it too. So, the first 2 Terminator movies are classic. The sequels vary from person to person. I will say 3 and 4 actually have good moments, but aren't anyone's top favorite movies of all time. Then Genesis and Dark Fate are the ones that are complete failures. And we've also had 2 TV shows. Yes, Terminator had TV shows. We had Terminator Zero, an anime on Netflix very recently. This one I have not saw, so I can't comment much, but I wanted to have a complete tier list. And the Sarah Connor Chronicles, which, pretty underrated, pretty badass, but we'll talk about that once we move along. So I try to find Creepshow, Man in the Suitcase episode, but never shows up. But it's not copyright. Guess they couldn't download it then. If you're a Star Trek or Nostalgia Critic fan, yuck, you know what voice to read in Genesis? Yeah, Genesis. Okay, so got a short tier list, at least I hope it's short, but we're going to be talking about all the Terminator Saga, going to be ranking them on this tier list from best or awesomest to awful. Yeah, best to worst, basic tier list. So if this is your first ever tier list, we'll go over the rules. I will be talking about all the Terminator movies and having interactions with the fans as we discuss it. Gonna be ranking all the movies and TV shows on this tier list from high to low. Up top, we have awesome, speaks for itself. Perfect movie, peak cinema, some of the greatest storytelling ever, and easily the greatest of the franchise. Then we have great. These ones, tremendous job, fun, dumb action movies. They were entertaining, but not what I would say peak 10 out of 10. I guess you could say 8 or 9 out of 10. Then we have good. These ones, fine. Okay, they did their job. They were definitely decent. They're mindless action thrillers at best, but stupid guy movies at their worst, but definitely not what I would say garbage. But then below we have meh, ones you didn't care for, below average, The Lame Ducks. Not super good movies, could have been better, but definitely not bottom of the trash heap. Then Never Saw. speaks for itself. Never saw these. We will be seeing at least one or two down here, but you get the gist. I never watched them, so I have no opinion. But then, bad. These ones, just plain boring, dull, lame. Not a good movie at all. I could see somebody liking this, but not my cup of cream. But then, rock bottom, we have awful. Worst movie ever. 0 out of 10. The embarrassments of the Terminator franchise, and unfortunately we might be seeing a few down here, but you get it, F grade, and do not recommend at all. So that's gonna be our tier list. Terminator franchise, if you somehow don't know, the first two movies are masterpieces. It's basically about preventing a dark future where machines rule the world. In the future, an AI program called Skynet, later rebranded like Legion or some other app, is basically, it's an AI program. The machines were supposed to make life better, but then turned against humanity and caused the apocalypse. Humanity and all organic life is being hunted down and terminated by these evil machines. It is a machine wars movie, and this is one of the pioneers of the apocalypse movie type of theme. The machines rule the world, and they're going to exterminate all life on Earth to make the way for a machine world. The machines are going to lose this war because a hero, a chosen one named John Connor, is going to become humanity's savior. So they use time travel to send a machine back in time to assassinate John Connor or his mother before she gives birth to him to prevent them from losing the war. And of course, this machine is our main man, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah, Arnold, who's pretty much been in all these movies, technically in Salvation too, but yeah, Arnold is kind of the face of this franchise. Arnold is actually a machine disguised as a regular human guy who's using his machine programming to be the perfect hunter. He goes undercover, he stalks and tracks down his targets to basically terminate them. They can't be reasoned with, they can't be bargained with, they won't feel any guilt, they will stop at nothing until you are dead. Essentially, terminated. And as we all know, Arnold Schwarzenegger made this one of his most iconic roles ever. He's basically playing a lifeless machine, crudely posing as a normal human guy. I say normal human, but it's Arnold. He's pretty much a big badass action figure type of guy. Arnold Schwarzenegger gets into a lot of action fights. He undergoes some character development, at least technically he does. There are other Terminators out there. Arnold, the Terminator, is not the same one villain in all these movies. Arnold is basically the same model, the T-100, which is like the latest creation of the machines. He's the most advanced model until we meet bigger villains each passing sequel. We meet my favorite, the Liquid Metal, the T-1000, the TX Sexy Girl Terminator, and those Decepticon Terminators in Salvation, basically elevating the stakes. That is one positive I will say. The movies definitely felt like they were trying to up the ante with each passing sequel, but it came to questionable results from person to person. We're back to another tier list. Hey, Kat, I'm back. Hey, Christopher, you made it on time. Terminator Zero. Yep, Terminator Zero is here. It's right at the tail end here. I do have the TV shows. Terminator Zero and the Sarah Connor Chronicles are on here. No, we are not counting the Salvation web series because I don't think anyone's remembered that was a thing. Also, R.I.P. Jonathan Joss. Yeah, John Redcorn and Powwow Smith from Justice League Unlimited. Yeah, Jonathan Joss passed away. He was killed by his neighbor, apparently. Really sad story. Sarah Connor's actress Linda Hamilton was, yeah, Madame Lorraine from DC Showcase Jonah Hex. Wolf reviewed that. Check it out on our channel. Got my waters to stay hydrated, so it shows you that I'm not a machine. But there's been a wide variety of characters outside of Arnold. Of course, Sarah Connor, the future mother of John Connor. John Connor, of course, the chosen one hero. The T-1000, Earl Bowen plays like this weird, sleazy therapist type of guy. Lance Henriksen is set up like he's gonna be important, but nope, he's a surprise death. Kyle Reese, John Connor's future father, and a main character in at least 3 of these movies. And unfortunately, Dark Fate introduced some of the worst characters, but of course, who can forget Summer Glau, sexy girl Terminator Cameron? She was pretty much the only reason people watched the Sarah Connor Chronicles. Well, her and Lena Headey as Sarah Connor definitely highlights. Also, Dr. Stephanie Lake in Batman Beyond episode Meltdown, and Susan in the new Batman Ventures Chemistry. Yeah, she was the plant. Well, the T-1000 and Terminator are in Mortal Kombat DLC, but now TX and... No TX in Mortal Kombat. Yeah, that does kind of suck. I think the TX is too hot and sexy for Mortal Kombat now. They've been kind of scaling back on how attractive their women are, and it is... well, understandable at first, but gotten to the point where they don't even look like women anymore. Like, imagine if we here in Mortal Kombat 13 or 2. Yeah, they can't decide. At least Sarah Connor is always played by a hottie. Except in Dark Fate. Yeah, maybe it was kind of a mistake bringing Linda Hamilton back in like her 1,000-year-old mummy body, but yeah. Sarah Connor is a legendary character. No, I think people are wrong saying, oh, she's only important because she gives birth to that heroic son. It's like, no, Sarah Connor is a badass. She is a badass character. She is practically one of the most important characters in the series, and it's not just because she gives birth to a Messiah character. No, Sarah Connor, she rocks in the first 2 movies, and everybody was pissed how T3 wrote her out, but... we'll get to that soon enough. But yeah, Sarah Connor, she's legendary. John Connor is the main character up until Dark Fate, and Jenna Shits tried to retcon that, but this is a franchise that actually started out very good. Terminator 1 and 2 are easily peak science fiction action horror movies. They are cool, they are badass, and the sequels... some of them had their ups and downs, but not very huge highlights, and at the end of the day, Terminator ultimately became another franchise. It's like, they wore out their welcome, they ran out of steam. These ideas they started having later were much, much stupider, nobody liked them, and the quality very much downgraded, even though the CGI got better. So yeah, we'll be going over them all in detail as we go across this tier list, but as you can see, got a pretty decent selection, so I'm hoping this tier list doesn't go on too long, so let's get started. Hi there, Cat. It's been a while. How's Wolf today? Wolf is fine. Wolf is just hanging out with friends on a different stream. One of the multiple reasons Dark Fate sucks. Yeah, that is one, and that was one of the reasons why I didn't see it in theaters. Why do people watch Goosebumps so much? Goosebumps was a childhood classic, so of course, a lot of children love it, and a lot of adults who read the books or watched the original show grew up with it, so it kind of appeals to people of all ages. Goosebumps is a classic entryway horror because they're dumb fun, spooky stories. We all like them, we all love them, and R.L. Stine is at least a very creative talent, so there was a mass appeal behind that. Have not seen 0 yet, only seen clips on YouTube. Looks great for being a pseudo-anime style. 3 would have been a bit better if we tweaked the whole Judgment Day is inevitable thing a bit. Fully agree. It was my intro to horror. Yeah, Goosebumps was for a lot of people. Like No Mermaid story in the 1990s. Yeah, sorry, Little Mermaid came out just at 1989, so nope. Alright, so let's get this started with... Terminator, the first 1980s Terminator, starring a young Arnold Schwarzenegger and Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor before she got famous. Also, Michael Biehn is surprisingly in this movie, but people forgot. So, Terminator 1, yeah, awesome. It is, of course, awesome. Is there really any doubt? No, I was gonna put it on the trash. Yeah, Terminator 1 it is a classic. It's not just a badass 80s movie, it is one of the greatest and scariest sci-fi movies ever. It is easily the basic one, but that's what makes it very easy to follow. We follow Sarah Connor, who is a total loser. Sarah Connor's a down on her luck loser. She's a waitress at like this god-awful Denny's. Sarah Connor is pretty much a pathetic wuss in this. She is kind of helpless for the first half, but she slowly but surely grows into her own and becomes the strong badass woman we all know and love and simp over. Linda Hamilton does a very amazing job in this, as she plays this very frightened, frail Sarah Connor, who slowly but surely molds herself into a soldier when things get serious. Sarah Connor is basically this loser chick in LA trying to get by. She has a crappy apartment, dickhead roommates, she's abused at her job, deals with a whole bunch of crap. Basically, kind of your normal average Joe, just trying to live her life and get by. And much to her and the audience's surprise, she is one of the most important people ever, because it turns out Sarah Connor is destined for greatness. She is the mother for humanity's future savior, John Connor. Sarah Connor is going to have a baby who will save us all from the machines exterminating us. A machine, the T-100, Arnold Schwarzenegger, our Terminator and villain of the movie, is sent back in time to assassinate Sarah Connor before she gives birth to John. He has to kill a young Sarah Connor, and Sarah barely escapes this guy, is basically spending the entire movie being hunted by Arnold Schwarzenegger. And as this goes on, we learn more about Sarah. Kyle Reese, a soldier from John's military group, played by the legendary Michael Biehn, time travels himself back in time, knowing this is a one-way trip. Yeah, time travel rules, they can travel back in time, but they cannot travel forward. It is a one-way street until we get to some later movies, but yeah. Basically, there is no way to get back to the future, but Kyle is perfectly okay with that because his future is awful. Kyle Reese is sent back in time to save Sarah Connor, while Arnold is hunting down Sarah Connor. And it basically becomes this long cat and mouse chase of the two trying to get to Sarah first, trying to dodge Arnold Schwarzenegger, and badass action ensues. We do get a lot of very scary visuals, and slowly but surely see that Arnold is indeed a robot disguised. Arnold has like a lot of battle damage. There's that creepy scene where he rips out his fake eye and we see the robot parts. We see his metallic skeleton. Get a lot of gruesome body horror shots that this guy is not human. And Arnold Schwarzenegger is at his scariest in this because he is not a one-liner machine yet. He is very much a dead serious, cold, emotionless hunter. He feels nothing. Terminators feel no pain. They express no emotion. He can mimic his voice by listening to people. The Terminator is effectively a ruthless AI killing machine who is stopping at nothing until Sarah Connor is dead. Kyle Reese manages to save Sarah Connor, and they slowly but surely become a romantic odd couple. Sarah starts falling in love with Kyle, and we learn the big twist. Kyle is actually the father of John Connor. He went back in time, fell in love with Sarah, and they both reproduce at one point in the movie, meaning that the sex scene with that graphic nudity was vital. They have sex, and yes, Kyle is the father of John, and time traveling helped ensure his existence. It's better than it's a one-way trip because the main goal is to change the future. Yep, hey Bodhi, you made it. I'm kind of surprised you showed up. I didn't know Bodhi was a huge Terminator fan. Also, Paul Edward Winfield died, and his only role in Terminator as Ed Traxler. That's right, he was. Also, okay, sorry, catch up on comments. Very quotable, too. I've seen the trailer for the Terminator movies. Yeah, Terminator 1. I think Terminator 2 and unfortunately 3 is also very quotable. Terminator 1 had a lot of quotes. It has the "come with me if you want to live, I'll be back." And who could forget "fuck you, asshole." Yeah, the machine trying to fit in has a lot of low-key dark comedy moments because it's very clear this machine is kind of struggling to fit in. The machine comes across as very uncanny. It's obviously not human, but Arnold's performance is so robotic that it makes him come across as very creepy. For me, it was the reverse. Aliens was the one I forgot Bean was in till I watched it a few years ago. Yeah, Michael Bihn's also in Aliens. He's Corporal Hicks, I believe. He's also the love interest for the badass Ellen Ripley. Yeah, Michael Bihn's so lucky. You got to make out with Sarah Connor and got to make out with Ellen Ripley. Michael Biehn also played, yeah, that was him, Corporal Hicks in Aliens, and Ian in The Walking Dead. I don't remember who that was. What is the best and worst Disney Gargoyles episodes? The worst one, I will say, any with the Quarrymen. The Quarrymen were not interesting villains, and that one where the guy, the disgruntled former security guard, spent his life saving on a bazooka that shoots pies. He wanted to get revenge on Goliath, and it ends with him shooting a pie in his face. That one was weird. I would put that on the worst. Best ones, easily Demona episodes. She was awesome. Alright. Yeah, my intro to Terminator was the 3D spectacular that Universal Studios had years ago, so when I started the franchise, Arnold being the evil one at first threw me in for a bit. Ha 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 ha. Threw me for a bit, okay. Best Stan Winston practical effects ever. Stan was the GOAT in creating good animatronics. Yeah, Terminator 1, a lot of practical effects. There is one very god-awful green screen. They kind of use this weird projector chroma key and this projector, the one where the Terminator loses its entire Arnold skin, and we see it as like this fucked up metal skeleton. That is creepy until we get to the scene where like he's chasing Sarah and Kyle, and you can very clearly tell it's like a projection, not in the same shot as them. It kind of looks very fake, but it's the one moment where the effects slip up. Other than that, the close-ups and its actual interactions with them hold up very well. The metal skeleton still looks good. The problem was it apparently weighed a ton. James Cameron allegedly used real steel and titanium to create this thing, and while it looks good, it was difficult to move. They had a hard time puppeting it, so there's a lot of claymation and projection scenes of the Terminator walking around in the climax of this movie, and it is like the one part that has not aged well. Hey Kat, another tier list for the role. Hey Yara Ultra, glad you made it. Yeah, we're talking about the Terminator saga because I wanted something a bit shorter and something folks were a tad more familiar with. I love me some Power Rangers, but I do have some people who don't follow it. I have binged the Terminator movies many times when I was younger. Genesis is the only one I dislike. Oh, then you're gonna have a fun time talking about that with us, Bodhi. Which came first, CGI or AI? Technically AI, but AI was not as advanced as it is now. AIs are basically for video games. They're the hapless minions. It was actually a big groundbreaker that you could play chess against your computer. That was how far AI was back then. Like, you could play AI in chess games, in checkers, on basically video games. And AI basically actually got kind of predicted by this movie because machines could do more work than humans. The AI just basically programming for machines. They could build stuff, they can work on stuff, while humans got tired and needed to break from factories. So there is a low-key social commentary in this franchise that machines are going to replace us, foreshadowing the theme that machines are going to start this war and declare humanity obsolete. If anything, the third movie is about on par with JP3. It grows on you over time, but yeah, this along with Salvation is more better than the Genesis and Dark Fate. Fully agree. We'll have some positives about those two sequels, but the current ones, not so much. Meanwhile, I'm fanfic writing like crazy, or at the very least, summary writing. Seriously, I might be now a better writer than designer. Alright, glad to see you're growing, Yara. Alright, so, anyways, Terminator 1, it is a classic. It is vicious. It is brutal. Arnold does get a lot of scary scenes in this. Him performing maintenance on himself, seeing his exposed flesh, foreshadowing that he's not even 1% human under there is very creepy. That scene where he literally busts into the police department and shoots it up, killing every cop there, really hardcore, and it shows you how strong this Terminator truly is. Like, yeah, there's a reason why the machines aren't sending an army after Sarah Connor, because literally just one can take on the entire police district. Arnold shoots up the police corps, kills Lance Henriksen. Yeah, Lance Henriksen finally started his streak of being killed by the Terminator, the Alien, and the Predator in these movies. Lance Henriksen played this nice guy cop and unfortunately dies, and it is a total curveball thrown at you because Henriksen was one of the few people actually recognized in this movie, since Linda Hamilton was still a nobody at the time, and Arnold even less recognizable in this. Yeah, he shoots up the police station, grand epic chase scene. We see they blow up a tanker truck on the machine, and Arnold completely disappears from this movie once his skin is destroyed, and out comes that horrifying metallic skeleton, and it is very creepy. The design is perfect. It is nightmarish. James Cameron apparently based it off of a nightmare of his and wanted to share that with the world, and did a fantastic job. And this started the trend where the final battle always takes place in a factory. Every Terminator story has to have a grand final battle in a factory. It chases them to like this a factory, basically, where they build, like, metal pipes and such. Sarah and Kyle go here. Kyle Reese, unfortunately, dies, heroically trying to sacrifice himself to save Sarah. We see Sarah toughen up. She undergoes a lot of character development. Sarah, at first, hated Kyle Reese, didn't believe him, and believes she's nobody, but then grows a spine. She grows tougher. She becomes a badass soldier in her own right. She actually gets Kyle to keep fighting when he's the one giving up because he's wounded. She falls in love with Kyle, and FYI, before everyone comes in and says, Kyle's a gross creeper wanting for Sarah Connor, it's like, that is bullcrap. Sarah grew to like him. Sarah and Kyle's romance is not forced or dated. It is very much believable and actually romantic. So yeah, she falls for Kyle. Sarah does realize she does have worth after all and ends up fighting to save her life and fighting this evil machine herself. Kyle's heroic sacrifice at least broke the Terminator's legs. They're fighting in that conveyor belt, and Sarah is the one who gets to finish the job. The Terminator nearly tries to strangle Sarah to death, but she activates this crusher, and it kills the T-100 for good. The Terminator finally dies being completely squashed flat like a Looney Tune, and it completely breaks it. But it does leave parts that will be looked up upon later in T2 Judgment Day, when the CEO guy finds them. But yeah, the machine is effectively dead. Sarah Connor manages to escape, and she goes off into the unknown, literally driving into a storm for a beautiful visual ending that there's a storm coming in the future, but this time Sarah is now brave and driving straight into it. And that is Terminator 1. It is awesome. It is legendary. Linda Hamilton, very hot in this movie, but she's also pretty kick-ass. Undergoes a lot of character development. To everyone saying Kyle and Sarah's romance is gross and icky, no, they're wrong. It is actually touching, heartwarming. They both bring out a better humanity in them. Kyle helps Sarah toughen up, and Sarah helps Kyle find his humanity, find himself, and find something more after living in a terrible apocalyptic future. Arnold Schwarzenegger, not a super deep villain, but a very threatening obstacle. He is much more of a boss fight rather than a horror monster, and that's what made him very horrifying. The Terminator is very tough. It is a basically looming threat of death, and we like how they fight it and eventually overcome their fear of it, crushing it to death and Sarah finding herself. Two husbandos, and I have two husbandos, very opposite side of the spectrum, to the point I practically adopted a side character as a brother. Casualty loop theory. Yeah. Well, no, Terminator 3 doesn't take place in a factory at the end. I thought it was a nuclear bunker. Yeah, that is true, but it kind of had another crushing door area. Yeah, he and Bill Paxton, RIP, were like the only two, right? Yeah, Bill Paxton and Lance Henriksen both had the honor of being killed by the Terminator, the aliens, and the Predator. Bill Paxton died in Predator 2, also got killed by the Terminator in this movie, plays like some punk who tries to mug Arnold, but Arnold Kanos him, breaks his heart literally, and he also does get killed by the alien in Aliens. I heard some people theorize that he could have lived, but come on, he was like dragged down through the floor. And Lance Henriksen also got killed by them. He got killed in the Terminator 1. He got killed in Alien vs. Predator, but it was technically by the Predator this time. And as we all know, Bishop got ripped in half by the Alien Queen and then died in Alien Cubed. Refresh my mind, have you ever read Jujutsu Kaisen? No, I have not. Dick Miller also in Small Soldiers, and The Howling is in this. And love the gun shop scene, you can't do that wrong. So the Terminator likes to steal men's clothes. Yeah, basically to blend in. The machines realize that they need to dress as civilians, and there's always a scene where the Terminator attacks somebody to steal their clothes. Yeah, I liked Mission Impossible 8, but the entity basically just became Skynet. This was literally its plan. Yeah, I haven't watched most of the Mission Impossible movies, but I heard a lot of people were mixed on the AI being a villain. Yeah, Dick Miller worked on these. I know he's worked on a lot of Terminator comics, and there is a bunch. Yara Ultra, the anime that feels like the supernatural theme. That's a lot of anime, Akira. The Kitsune, yeah, it's currently one of my faves. Sorry, just catch up on comments. Also, I'm reminded Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated did a Terminator reference with Fright Hound. That's right, the evil Terminator Scooby. Linda Hamilton nailed both the vulnerable hot and badass hot. Yeah, she did. She got even hotter in Judgment Day, if you can believe it or not. But here, Sarah Connor is not a daintily pathetic final girl. She is actually toughening up. She grows a spine. She fights at the end. James Cameron actually did start a lot of badass female characters, and Sarah Connor and Ellen Ripley were two of the definitive examples. So don't be fooled by all these morons on the internet who say Rey Skywalker and Katniss are the true badass females we need. Bullshit. We have Ellen Ripley and Sarah Connor kicking ass in the friggin' 80s. So, yeah, Sarah Connor, she is a S-tier final girl. Arnold Schwarzenegger, definitely an underrated horror monster. I like the unfeeling cold machine. Yeah, he's not a very deep character, but this movie is Sarah Connor's story, and her and Kyle getting the development was definitely a far better choice. The machines would later get a bit more depth in these later stories, but for now, the Terminator is basically a boss fight they have to basically combat. It's being built up. They're showing you why this is deadly, and that we need to stop this future because machines like Arnold are destroying the human race, and showing you it does live up to that threat. People are so overfilled with BS romance sets that they cannot acknowledge growth or chemistry between couples. Fully agree, Yara, so stop saying Sarah and Kyle Reese's romance is toxic and unbelievable. What woman would fall for a guy who carjacked her? It's like he was saving her life and she was showing gratitude towards him. Kyle had to win her over too, so it was not an instant romance. It is not love at first sight. Kyle and Sarah do not get along at first, but Kyle saves her because he has to, and Sarah is saved by him because Sarah is pretty much scared and frightened for her life, has no idea what's going on, and has actually seen what the Terminator is capable of, so she has no choice but to believe this guy and slowly starts to bond with him. They slowly form their relationship and have that really spicy sex scene. Yeah, this is sadly the only Terminator movie with good nudity in it. But yeah, we see Linda and Kyle actually build up to their love scene, and it's actually an important scene because the twist is Kyle is John's father. He got Sarah pregnant, and this was actually his true mission to have John Connor exist, basically. Kyle was sent to be his dad, and they got together. Sarah had her baby. We find out she's pregnant at the end, meaning that she has saved the future, but it still has a lot to combat later. And Sarah is important because she's the mother who's going to raise the savior, but apparently having the man save the day somehow invalidates her as a woman because these people are idiots and don't realize how mothers are very important to society. True. Hey, buddy. Netflix is the game changer, legend maker, whatever you might call it. Also, only organic material can go through the time machine. Yeah, that's why Arnold has, like, his fake human skin whenever he goes back. Like, why not steal clothes in the mall or thrift store? That is what Kyle Reese does, Akira. Kyle Reese broke into a mall and stole, like, from a Sears shop. Yeah, apparently some characters do that. The machines, no, it is to kind of establish how scary the machines are by having them murder someone just to swipe their outfit. Along with Vasquez from Aliens 2 as a badass female. Yeah, Vasquez, she was also hot and kick-ass. Though I hate that people try to, label her as a lesbian just because she's a tomboy. That is kind of bullcrap, and we actually see her flirt with guys, so it's also BS. Also, like, the T-100 have clones on every movie. Yeah, that was kind of an excuse to bring Arnold back in every sequel. The T-100 is supposed to be the same model, so they recycle Arnold Schwarzenegger's skin just to keep him around. Which you prefer on sex scenes-wise, the first movie or Resistance with Jennifer or the Baron? Might still have to stick with the first movie because Linda Hamilton is pretty. But yeah, Terminator 1, it is awesome. It is a classic. Will it be number one? Well, we're gonna finally get to the debate. Which is better, Terminator 1 or Judgment Day? Now that we're going on to the second one, but yeah, if you're curious, it is still S tier regardless. This is a movie classic, and I highly recommend it. Terminator 1 has still held up to this very day, and tragically, even the modern 2000s ones do not look as impressive as the old 80s one. But here we come to T2 Judgment Day. This one of my favorite movies of all time, and time to start the flame war. I do think it is better than the first one. Yep, I am in the crowd who prefers Judgment Day over Movie 1. Now, Movie 1 is not a bad movie at all. T2 just did what every sequel should do. It escalated things greatly, ramped up the stakes, ramped up the action, ramped up the effects, and managed to ramp up the character development too, if you can believe it or not. T2 Judgment Day. This one actually does follow John Connor. So, we have a time skip. Sarah Connor has lost custody of John Connor. John is now in a terrible foster home, basically being this rebellious 90s punk kid. John is now undergoing the same story his mom did, trying to find himself, trying to develop his own sense of morals, his identity, while Sarah has been locked away in the nut house by the therapist from the first movie, Earl Bowen. Yeah, they weirdly kept bringing this guy back in every Terminator story too. Earl Bowen has locked up Sarah Connor. She's been declared an insane, crazy lady. They have her held in like this asylum basically, but Sarah is well aware that the machine apocalypse is on the way, and Linda Hamilton got into massive shape in this movie. We get sexy Sarah Connor. She's now like this badass Sonya Blade commando. She's like lifting weights, doing push-ups, pull-ups, and Linda Hamilton got really jacked for this movie. She looks pretty badass, like kind of has like this Cora body, very buff muscles, that long flowing hair, and she is very much mastered in military combat by now. But John and Sarah are now completely separated, and once again, the machines use time travel to send the perfect assassin, this time to murder John Connor when he's a helpless child. And we get two Terminators. Arnold Schwarzenegger comes back, and in a twist, Arnold is the good guy. The new Terminator, Robert Patrick, is actually our twist villain. Robert Patrick, the liquid metal Terminator, the T-1000. Easily my favorite Terminator in this because the liquid metal effects look awesome. Like, they look so good even to today. The liquid metal Terminator is like this shapeshifter Terminator. He can alter his body, turn his hands into weapons, and can morph into anyone, kind of Mystique style. And Robert Patrick is kind of his default form. Robert Patrick, very creepy in this. He actually does a better job passing himself off as a human. The T-1000 is an advanced model. A liquid metal Terminator is dispatched to murder the Connors and succeed where the first one failed. However, in a twist, Arnold is a good Terminator. He's been reprogrammed by the Resistance to save John Connor, and this is a Terminator built to obey everything John and Sarah command. We are kind of duped into believing Arnold is still the bad guy in this while Robert Patrick's the good guy before shifting things around, turning it upside down, and revealing that nope, Robert Patrick is the evil one, and Arnold is actually a hero in this. Arnold protects John, they help bust Sarah out of the asylum, and once again, badass cat and mouse chase between the Terminators and the Connors. And this time we get an exploration of character in this movie. Like, even Arnold actually gets to act in this movie. Arnold is, at first, kind of robotic, but as it goes on, Arnold becomes John's surrogate father slash big brother figure, and Arnold gets to be the badass one-liner machine we all know and love. Hasta la vista, baby. I'll be back. I need the vacation. Yeah, Arnold, a lot funnier in this movie, but has a lot of heart. Surprisingly, you grow attached to a machine in this movie. Arnold becomes a friend to John Connor. They bond and form this kind of cute bro-ship between them. John looks up to Arnold as kind of like his real father figure. Sarah Connor comes back, and Sarah actually has to return to her humanity in this movie and become a better mother. Sarah is low-key kind of a bitch at the start of this movie. I mean, I don't blame her for being a bitch in the asylum, but being a bitch towards John and Arnold, that is kind of where she lost touch with her soul. Hey Cat, hey Light Jones. Robert Patrick in this film is awesome, so much in fact that he makes other cameos in other movies too. Oh, that's right, in Last Action Hero, Robert Patrick was in the background. I hadn't seen T2 before Robert Patrick became Mulder's villain on the X-Files, so it was kind of a mild shell shock for me. Yeah, Robert Patrick, the T-1000, he's the White Dragon in Peacemaker, Mr. Lisp on the Spy Kids. Yeah, did anyone remember he was in that? And he's Race Banyan in The Real Adventures of Johnny Quest. At least the first season, then they replaced him with classic Race Banyan. It was funny that Robert Patrick ran so fast that he caught up to the dirt bike John was riding. Yeah, this is a very much advanced Terminator. And Robert Patrick was in very peak physical condition. I seen Robert Patrick actually did a lot of the stunt work, not the super death-defying ones like him jumping off the side of the building. He was actually driving that wrecked semi-truck chasing John Connor. The action scenes are peak in this movie. They look good and look real, and that's because a lot of them were real. Yeah, apparently, the T-1000 stunt double, I don't think it was Robert Patrick, actually. They did actually drive a semi-truck off a bridge. They did that sewer chase. Arnold actually was riding a motorcycle past speeding cars, and the helicopter chasing the SWAT truck, that was actually real. That was actually a real chopper chasing them. The only thing that was fake was the bullets didn't actually kill them. They were all blanks. Yeah. Yeah, was there ever any doubt? Yeah, there wasn't. T2 is awesome. I know, right? The amount of BS fandom still normalized. No wonder most of them are surrounded by toxic jerks. Alright, read that one. Terminator vs. RoboCop did the plot have T-100 steal weapons of the clothes of the owner of the gun shop? Well, it's kind of become a staple scene for this franchise. Like, I hope Miraculous doesn't make an akumatized villain be like the Terminator. Well, they did make RoboCop, Akira. I remember Sabrina's dad became Roger Cop, who was obviously RoboCop. They even drew him like Peter Weller. Yep, 2T surpassed the first. I do think T2 is best. T2 might be our #1 movie because it is just that awesome. Like, guys, this isn't just a good Terminator movie. This is one of the greatest sci-fi action / horror movies of all time. It is a 10 out of 10 Platinum Skull classic. Like, even people who aren't fans of the Terminator franchise acknowledge that this movie is a huge hit. It is that good. Definitely my favorite. T2 is amazing, and here's where Earl Bowen is portrayed as the biggest asshole ever. Great actor, though, R.I.P. Yeah, it is kind of satisfying. Sarah Connor breaks out of the asylum. She actually saves herself at first, and breaks Earl Bowen's arm. Earl Bowen gets beaten up and abused a lot in this movie, which very satisfying to see, especially because he was a dick in the first movie and kind of a bigger ass in this film because he treats Sarah like a head case and wants to profit off of her. But yeah, Earl Bowen gets his comeuppance, and the T-1000 breaks into the asylum trying to kill John and Sarah because he knows how John thinks. He knows John is going to try and save Sarah, and this made the T-1000 a whole lot scarier because he's mastered how humans think, which made him a far more effective killer than Arnold. Since we have RoboCop, parody of Officer Roger Cop, and Daddy Cop Season 6, like the worst villain that his attack sucks. People forget that the classic quote was actually taught by John. They all remember the scene, but not how it happened and how it was set. Yeah, John bonds with the Terminator and actually tells him, dude, you gotta stop saying things like affirmative and affirmative and of course. Like, you gotta say things that normal humans would say, like hasta la vista, baby. No problem, dickwad. Yeah, it teaches him that 90s slang. It is actually kind of adorable because we do see John and the machine have this very wholesome bond. John and Arnold actually become total best friends by the end of the movie, which makes the ending all the more depressing. So, as I said, the machine parts from the first movie actually got uncovered and found. That scientist guy, Miles, actually finds them. This guy is going to invent Skynet through studying this future tech that the police recovered, and he's using it to basically build the foundation of his company and setting forth the stages that will eventually create Skynet. And this is where Judgment Day comes into fruition. We find out Judgment Day is on the horizon, and John is needed now more than ever because they're afraid the machines are going to make it happen sooner than later. Miles invented this device and basically used future technology to build his AI Skynet, and Sarah tries to murder him in front of his family too, showing how far she's fallen. John and the T-100 are able to talk her out of it and reveal to him the truth that the machines are going to take over the future, and Sarah undergoes a character arc of basically recovering her humanity. Sarah is now like this hardened, cynical, jaded Sonya Blade knockoff who treats everything like a mission and is dead serious, to the point where she's not even a good mother for John anymore. She treats John as more like this thing she's trying to protect rather than her son. Sorry, I just need some water. So, they save the scientist guy and tell him the truth. He actually comes around to believing them, which is our first hint of this movie's theme. The future is not set in stone. The future is decided by you. The future is how we make it. And yeah, the scientist actually agrees with them, and he does want to destroy this AI. Miles and the team all break into his company and destroy every single trace of Skynet technology. However, as you can guess, things go wrong. The police and SWAT team attack. Arnold actually gets a no-kill victory. Yeah, Arnold's doing a no-kill playthrough in this movie, and pretty awesome seeing how Arnold is still badass despite not terminating anyone. They fight the SWAT team. Unfortunately, Miles dies, but he gets to go out on a heroic sacrifice, blowing up his entire corporation in Skynet. The T-1000 isn't giving up yet. He's chasing down John, Sarah, and the T-100. Once again, cat and mouse chase, badass action, cool scenes on the highway, a helicopter chase, and of course we lead to a factory, because all these movies have a climax in the factory. An epic, sinister fight. Both of the parties get monumentally damaged. Sarah is injured. John is actually scratched. Arnold slowly but surely loses more of his body as the fight continues. And even the T-1000 starts glitching out after he's like partially frozen and then blown up. He rebuilds himself, but he's like actually kind of glitching, like his chameleon mode keeps defecting. He like gains like the color of whatever he's walking of and touching on, and it is a pretty cool effect. Like his skin turns into the same color as like a grate or a rail bar he's touching, and his transforming ability has a massive flaw in it now, which is a pretty nifty effect. So it leads to a fight scene. Arnold almost dies, but gets his heroic second win. We get that fight scene over the smelting pit, and Arnold shows up, saves the day, and blows Robert Patrick away with a grenade launcher, and the T-1000 turns into this weird, fucked up, gooey mess blob monster thing, and falls back into the smelting pit lava where he burns to death, and got that really horrific monster death as he's melting and turning into everyone, glitching out, and the liquid metal Terminator is gone forever. And Skynet will never try to do another one like him ever again. Yeah, really, I wish I was joking. However, we get to our twist ending that they have to delete all technology from the future. This includes Arnold. Arnold has to die so they don't have a single trace of Skynet and defeat the machines forever. And it leads to the most tragic, heartwarming scene, the Connors and Arnold saying goodbye. Arnold finally understands what it's like to be human. That I understand why you cry. It is emotion, a feeling that I can never feel. And yeah, it is actually shows you that Arnold can actually act. But yeah, Arnold willingly submerges himself in the smelting pit, giving that big old thumbs up, and John says goodbye to him, and Sarah regains her humanity and finally rebuilds her relationship with John, realizing that the future can be changed for the better, and the future is what we make of it. Yeah, Robert Patrick actually caught up with John on the dirt bike. I hadn't seen T2 before read that one. Robert Patrick in this film is awesome. Yes, he was. Hey, Light Jones, the first Terminator 2 movies are goated. Yes, they are. Also, Phil Billings on Ben 10 episode Truth. I'll have to rewatch that one. Oh, and he was a cop on Wayne's World. That was weird. He was in Wayne's World. Why do so little movies no longer like Terminator 2? That's because James Cameron used to care about making good movies, and now a lot of later action movies are trying to be something else. They're trying to be as cool as this old action movie we all know and loved was, but they don't understand that it was a passion project, and T2 was definitely a creative movie. Like, it is not stealing from other works. It is James Cameron trying to tell you a story and trying to do fun and crazy-ass adventure stories, and that's what made it fun. T2 actually had very little CGI. It was actually just the T-1000. Yeah, that I could tell. Robert Patrick, whenever he was the T-1000, it actually looked pretty cool. Like, the CGI has held up spectacularly well in this. The T-1000 looks very off-putting, and I think the fact that he looks like one of those mannequins is definitely very creepy. And it's because of how little CGI they made and how many real set pieces they had. Yeah, practical effects for the win. Edward Furlong, actor of John Connor, played Mr. Tupper in The Green Hornet, Thomas Cross in Three Blind Mices, and Jeff Matthew in Pet Sematary 2. Oof, don't remind me. R.I.P. Earl Bowen. The TX and Rev 9 are my favorite Terminator variants. Yeah, we'll be getting a girl Terminator soon. He was also in Night of the Demons remake Akira. Yeah, that's right, Edward Furlong was. Also, he was Chaka in Wonder Woman 1977. Never watched that. And Taurus in G.I. Joe, the movie. It's cool, cat. We all need to drink water. Apparently, some say that the movie takes place in 1997 or something like that. Yeah, apparently the Machine Wars are on the horizon in Judgment Day, and they do kind of defeat that. But then Terminator 3 happened, and oh boy, we'll be getting to that. Sorry, I just catch up on comments. Also, Mr. Gorin. Oh, he was Magneto in Pride of the X-Men. I did not know that. Another thing that makes the movie so good is you can actually tell the actors really sell the emotions of the characters. Best example would definitely be Sarah Connor seeing the T-800 once again. Yeah, Sarah at first freaks out and sees Arnold in the elevator and she runs away from him, not realizing that he's here to help, which makes the movie have a lot more stakes to it and feel like a good sequel to the first movie, because unlike a lot of sequels, this one doesn't retcon or do away with the first movie. It actually continues on the story of the first, which is why it's considered a great sequel. Standing in front of her with a gun in the first movie has actually made a machine gun, but he had a shotgun but still gets PTSD from seeing the leather-coated machine. Yeah, the glitching scenes for the T-1000 got deleted but put back in. Nice effects. Yeah, I love that. Like, the Robert Patrick's Terminator is like touching the environment, and he's very broken and defective at this point because we see like his legs get the same color as the floor. He touches a railing and his whole arm turns into the color of the railing. That was a pretty neat effect. They almost didn't do it, but glad they did. They got Linda Hamilton's twin sister for when the T-1000 tries to turn into Sarah. I didn't know she had a twin. I know he turned into her at one point, but John Connor sees the deception because of his glitchy legs. Like angry video game nerd did Pepsi Man as the T-1000 die in the orange soda vat. Yeah, that was classic. Hi everyone, I see you're back, Cat. Hey, V Scorpio. Yeah, I'm trying to do a shorter tier list this time. Only like 6 left, so not too much to talk about. Don't worry, I haven't seen Terminator 0, so that one I'm afraid I'm gonna have to put on a never saw. We'll talk about it after we wrap up T2, but yeah, I think T2 is a total classic. You took the words right out of my mouth. Is the special effects and the CGI of the T-1000 have actually aged very well. Through high quality video of Mercury melting, it actually looks so much like the T-1000. Seth has always had the control of remote control and Goosebumps. Talking about Click. Okay, yeah, Click is a good episode. It would have made my top 10, but I chopped it down to a top 5. Click would have been number 9 if you were curious. Anyways, to wrap up T2, it is a classic. It is legendary. To this day, this movie still looks so good. Like the visuals, the film style, even the action scenes, and the CGI of the 90s held up very well. This is a movie that clearly had passion in it and a lot of hard work, which truly paid off. We have not had another Terminator movie as grandiose as this one, and it's not just a good Terminator flick, but one of the greatest action sci-fi movies of all time. I highly recommend it, and yes, I do think it is better than the first movie. I am one in the crowd that does prefer 2 more, but that does not mean movie 1's bad at all, because it carried on the greatness the first movie already set out. So, Judgment Day gets a good judgment. It is awesome, and possibly our number 1. But for those of you wondering, I've not seen Terminator 0. This is an anime Terminator series currently on Netflix. I did not even know the show existed until I literally checked Wikipedia to see if I got everything. Yeah, apparently Netflix made an anime Terminator show, and this unfortunately came out right after Dark Fate pissed everyone off, so I did not check it out. I did not know what it was. I heard it's supposed to be kind of a Chronicles show, like we're following people reacting to the Machine Wars. Sumali Montano, the voice of RC, is apparently a character in it, but I don't know, I'm just not really interested in checking it out because I'm kind of done with watching new Terminator material because it's become another franchise. But Yeah, the long story short, never saw it. It's apparently on Netflix. It's only 8 episodes long because for some reason every streaming show has to be 8 episodes long. Apparently it's a chronicle show showing how the Machine Wars started. We're seeing like a bunch of random diverse characters reacting to the apocalypse starting and introduced to a bunch of side characters, so don't worry, you don't have to know about all the Connors and Arnold and all that stuff. Basically, kind of a new generation's intro to Terminator, but yeah, just never saw it. If it's good, let me know. I've only heard it was rather lukewarm. People thought it was okay. Some people absolutely loved it. Some people found it pretty meh. And others at worst said it just wasn't worth talking about. I heard it's getting a second season, but time will tell. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. But for now, it's going on Never Saw. Bring up Dark Fate might have just sealed the movie's fate. Yeah, I also have the Sarah Connor Chronicles on here because I really want to end this on a high note. Hey, Nate Leeper, hello. Do you have any thoughts on the Click movie by Adam Sandler? Yeah, I found parts of it funny, but it got very heavy and serious by the end, so not one of my favorite Sandman movies. I do think Goosebumps did it better too, because Adam Sandler totally ripped it off. Christopher Walken is the best part. Unfortunate part is that they need to cut some things out from the director's cut, which came out way later, but my goodness, I did not think that it can add any more greatness to what we already had. Zero is more better than the War of the Rohirrim of Lord of the Rings. Isn't anything better than the Rings of Power? Like, well, it looks cool, also sexy anime. Have you reviewed Disney Gargoyles episodes yet? No, I have not. I am kind of paranoid Disney might take it down. Plus, a lot of people reviewed Gargoyles already. Special mention going to the Nostalgia Critic who reviewed the pilot. It's just so unbelievable every single time, every time travel, and in the end it also leads to grim futures like, is there one good future? There should be, but Power Rangers RPM finally defeated Skynet. I was almost crying at the end of Click because, man, the message went deep. Yeah, I heard a lot of people really love that part. A bit heavy for me, especially because it's a stupid Adam Sandler movie. But I heard a lot of people love Click. I will not shame anyone for liking it, but I won't really say it's my thing. It just didn't really click with me. What do you think of the new Happy Gilmore 2 coming out? I am probably not gonna watch it because it's like 20 years later and we're finally doing a sequel to it. Happy Gilmore 1 is a comedy classic. 2, I am very worried it's gonna be a stupid cash grab. Like, they're gonna wave member berries at you, remind you of the good old days of how awesome the first movie was. Haven't seen it myself, but haven't also been driven to check it out because I've been burned badly by way too many years later sequels. Speaking of which, Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines. Okay, my brother Wolf really loves this movie, but me, I am very indifferent on it. This one, I might be very nice to it, so we'll put it onto meh. Yeah, shockingly, this one isn't bad or awful, just meh. So, first things first, they retconned the entire ending of Terminator 2. Yeah, Judgment Day, you can change the future, you make your own destiny. Nope, screw that, Judgment Day is inevitable, it's happening whether you like it or not. Yeah, they kind of piss all over the happy ending of movie 2. Yeah, the Judgment Day is still happening, and John Connor's still on the loose. First off, they retcon the ending. Second off, they kill Sarah Connor off screen. Yeah, Sarah Connor died in between movies. How did the legendary final girl go out? She died of cancer. Yeah, really. Sarah Connor died of cancer off screen in between T2 and T3 because they couldn't get Linda Hamilton to come back because Hamilton was done with these movies and I think she dodged a bullet considering how bad some of these sequels are about to get. Terminator 3 has some good moments. There is good action in this. The CGI is definitely a bit wonky in places, but has held up in places too. We're introduced to the girl Terminator, the TX, played by the sexy Sonya Blade, and yeah, I can see what fans really liked about her. This is a hot girl as a killer Terminator assassin, of course that's gonna sell well. The TX, actually not a bad character. Unfortunately, she's in a very bad story. Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, has a very, very clunky, messy, and tonally weird story. Sandler needs the money, I guess. Yeah, what won't he do for money? The thing is, Sandler can do good movies, but he just doesn't. Yeah, the shift from the comedy trying to be deep can be a bit jarring. That is my biggest problem. Terminator 3 has mood whiplash all around. Like, one moment this movie's a stupid comedy, there's that dumbass scene where Arnold attacks a stripper and takes his clothes and he wears those weird Hollywood star sunglasses. It's like, that was goofy. Arnold's Terminator is a lot more comedic in this one. Now, don't worry, it's not to a painful degree like Power Rangers Turbo, but it is kind of jarring, the talk to the hand. And yeah, that was cringe. I did not like any of the comedy scenes in this movie. I found one funny where John's girlfriend love interest tries to escape from the van and Arnold literally just catches her and tosses her back in. That was actually pretty funny, but yeah, it goes from goofy-ass comedy to deep and philosophical, thought-provoking messages quite faster in a blink. It is like very jarring and very all over the place. And executives will always press the wrong buttons to greenlight sequels and convince people that nostalgia by itself sells. Ain't that the truth? Unfortunately, it only works in a 1 out of 10 shot. We only got 2 sexy female Terminators. Dark Fate did Mackenzie Davis dirty. One was a TV series on Fox. Yeah, Summer Glau, Cameron. And had the excuse, but then T3 just chose not to give us all the best bits for some reason. I like how you reviewed Night of the Living 2. Oh, thank you, Miss Kitty. I'm glad people really liked that review. I wanted to do more Scooby-Doo stuff, but apparently my Scooby-Doo project and Night of the Living 2 especially, did not do very well. I was actually hoping more people would like those videos, but I'm glad you liked them. Thanks, Miss Kitty. Terminatrix is so hot, no wonder there's a lot of Rule 34 of this femme fatale, and yes, it's a parody of Species. Yeah, Species came out roughly a few years before this, and we started having a lot more femme fatale villains in horror, and the TX definitely was one of them. I do agree, she's pretty hot, she's a knockout. They tragically censor her best parts, her nude scene where she time travels. We do see her butt, though, so don't worry, guys, you do get something good out of that. We see her butt briefly. She kills some random woman for her nice outfit, and the TX actually inspired Tenaya 7 from Power Rangers RPM, so any of my Ranger fans listening, Tenaya 7/Tenaya 15 was inspired by this badass femme fatale Terminator. The TX actually is cool in concept, but to me, she always felt like a downgrade from the T-1000. In the last film, the T-1000 was this invincible liquid metal guy who could change into anything. The TX, she's a girl Terminator, and her superpowers are she can hack things. She has these nanobots that can hack machines and control them. That is a pretty cool power, but not nearly as scary as Robert Patrick's abilities. The TX can hack into things with her fingers. She can also turn into anyone she wants, but for some reason blows her cover instantly as soon as she finds her target. So in this movie, we follow John Connor, who is now a lone wolf. He's trying to find his identity, trying to find his new destiny. He believes they stopped Judgment Day, but wouldn't you know it, he's pulled in for one last mission to help stop Judgment Day again, and this time it is by the military. The military is developing Skynet, creating drones and these weird Decepticon tanks that are supposed to help the military and make a brighter, peaceful future, ironically with weapons of mass destruction, but yeah, you get the messaging there. Basically, Judgment Day is now going to happen again, and the TX has been sent back in time to eliminate John Connor and all his lieutenants. Yeah, we're finally addressing this. John Connor did not win this war alone. He actually had an inner circle of badass generals, lieutenants, and a future team of badasses who the TX is taking out, and I do love how these generals are very random people. Like, one's like a fast food worker, one is working at like a veterinarian's office, one is just literally a random chick shopping at the mall. Like, all these people who are destined to be great heroes are being randomly gunned down and off by this scary femme fatale Terminator. John eventually bumps into, like, a girlfriend he knew at school. Yeah, that little girl you saw at the mall, apparently she's his future wife, and they're destined to fight this war together, and once again, trying to do what his mom and dad did. It is a complete copy and paste from Sarah and Kyle Reese. They don't like each other at first, but slowly but surely fall in love and grow attached to each other, which kind of weird in this sense because, yeah, the girl actually has her own life. She had like a fiance. The fiance dies a really horrible, gruesome death. The TX kills him and wears his skin, so there's your horror right there. And she, I guess, gets over his death and starts falling in love with John. It's like, yeah, Kyle and Sarah were not perfect, but they also didn't have anyone in their lives before falling for each other. And don't forget, TX got a popular scene, if you know what I mean. Yeah, I know what you mean. She also inflates her boobs at one point when a cop pulls her over. That was kind of, once again, a weird, jarring comedy scene in this otherwise very dark, nihilistic, depressing movie. Kristen Locan played Penny Barnes in Lois and Clark and The New Adventures of Superman. Rise of the Machines will always have a special place in my heart because it was a whole lot better than all the Terminator movies we got next. Yeah, that is 100% true, Light Jones. T3 has gotten better because a lot of the sequels are about to get a whole lot worse. Special mention going to Dark Fate and Genesis, but we'll get to those soon enough. T3, I can see some good points in here. The TX is a cool villain. The action scenes are pretty badass. Arnold fights all the remote-controlled cop cars, ambulances, and that crane. That was a cool action scene. He's fighting the TX and all the remote-controlled vehicles. Badass chase scenes. Badass action. The special effects and action have definitely held up in this movie and are pretty much the biggest reason why there's still defenders for it. However, my problem is the story, and yeah, as it goes on, it becomes very clear that this message is aiming for a more nihilistic, that you have to accept your fate type of deal, which goes against everything the first two set up. Funny thing is, I was talking about the Sanders clique, and yet it still applies to T3. Yeah, it kind of does. Also, Taja in Mortal Kombat Conquest. Jennifer Bassett in Minkus and Girl Meets World. Yeah, that's right, she was in Conquest. The one thing I like about T3 is Nick Stahl was the best adult John Connor out of the three actors in my opinion. Bodhi, you didn't like Christian Bale as John Connor? Oh, good for you. Some say that its plot twist at the end actually saved the movie. What would you say about that? Okay, so the plot twist is what I had a problem with. So, big shock, it leads to a fight at like a factory. Well, technically it is a bunker, but the fight scene very much reminds you of the first one. The TX is killed by being crushed by Arnold, and Arnold puts a grenade in her mouth and blows them both up. Yeah, Arnold goes out on a suicide bombing, he takes out the TX with him, and we find out that the twist was the Terminator wasn't trying to help them prevent Judgment Day, he was trying to help save them so they would survive Judgment Day. That John and his wife were going to become heroes from this point on, and be the only survivors of this brutal war to be the new light in the future saving the day. Yeah, they don't stop Judgment Day, it happens, but John and his love interest are alive and now must fulfill their destiny, becoming the true leaders. John is like in the president's radio room, everyone's scrambling, afraid, and John is supposed to basically grow his spine and take command here. And John does it, accepts his destiny as the savior, reigniting hope and guiding humanity in the ultimate death battle against the Machine Empire. The TX actually helps cause Judgment Day. It breaks into the government facility, hacks all the drones, and triggers Skynet, and that was the TX's true purpose, to start the Machine Wars and give them an edge. And John was supposed to survive the movie, not prevent Judgment Day, meaning that he's going to now have to take control of his own destiny and fight the machines as the man the world needs to guide them in this dark and hopeless hour. And yeah, I kind of have mixed feelings on this because it goes against everything T2 and even Terminator 1 set up, that you can forge your own future. The future's not set in stone. We make our own destiny. And T3 basically retconned that all out of the way and said, nope, the future is inevitable. The future is set in stone. Your destiny is decided. The choice is you take charge of it or you just give up. And I did not like that message because it kind of throws out everything the franchise kind of stood for. I'm not a fan of it because it's kind of a bleak, dour, depressing ending on what's supposed to be a fight for hope. Like, you're supposed to take control of your own life and fight for a better tomorrow. That is the message they're trying to push, but it just craps all over the first two movies' morals, and I'm not a big fan of it because it's just depressing, bleak, and nihilistic, which is the exact opposite of James Cameron's vision. So, yeah, T3 ends on a bittersweet ending where the hero and his girlfriend survive, but Arnold died. They took out the TX, but the Machine Wars are now happening, and this leads to the fourth movie, Terminator Salvation. We'll get to that, but for T3, I still have very mixed feelings on it. Now, it is miles better than the sequels we're about to get later, but T3 is still a bit of a mess. It is tonally confused. There is way too many stupid-ass comedy moments in this. Arnold is not as memorable in this as he is in the first two. Nick Stahl, not a bad John Connor, but also, you don't really buy his character arc where he's growing up, maturing, becoming more of a man. It is kind of hard to swallow. Like, this guy got, beat up by his girlfriend and locked in a dog cage, and he's supposed to be our savior, and the couple's chemistry, not too unrealistic, but also not super romantic like Kyle and Sarah's was. What held it up high, though, is the girl Terminator is a badass, sexy femme fatale villain. She does kick ass. She is a very threatening character, and the action scenes are pretty good. The car chase scene, that is one of the most timeless scenes in this movie where they're fighting in the cars and she's controlling them. That is actually pretty fun. I wanted more of that in this movie. The machines don't really feel like characters anymore by this point. Now they feel like just horror monsters that you have to fight. And basically, Skynet coming back, complete bullcrap. It was just to crap out another sequel, and some people say this actually killed the Terminator franchise, but no, we did eventually get Salvation as the comeback. But T3, I will put it onto meh because there are some things to like about it. It is no longer the worst in the saga, but it's also not the best. It's going right smack in the middle for me. Like why she steals clothes from a girl, because we wanted to have a hot scene of her walking around naked. Also, she was Rain in Blood Rain. Ugh, I'm sorry, girl. So Trakina from RPM likes the... So Trina's not from RPM. That's Tenaya 7. Tenaya 7 looks like the TX. Terminator 1 literally showed a sex scene with Linda Hamilton's bare chest, and that was one of the best scenes in the movie. Love the boob expansion scene with the Victoria's Secret billboard. Yeah, that was actually pretty funny. A stupid joke, but funny. Like, wouldn't the TX steal clothes from Victoria's Secret? Well, then we wouldn't get to see her butt shot. Also, the chest scene is cool. Yeah, where she breaks her arm, like, through that guy's body and drives the car. A bit silly, but also pretty horrifying and graphic. Agree, Christopher? Yeah, the scene where she hacks Arnold is pretty well done, but... And then she said tanks T1 are in deleted scenes of Salvation. Yeah, Claire Danes played Kate Brewster, also did San and Princess Mononoke. Yeah, that was a good movie. Her talents were better utilized there. And she was host on Saturday Night Live and Beth March in Little Women. Did you ever ride the Universal attraction? No, I did not. But yeah, the TX, Christina Loken, was a hot robot, but I did like the abilities of the TX as well, being a mix of the T1000 and T900. Hacking may be lame, but she has the liquid metal advantage. Yeah, the TX definitely had some interesting powers, though. One scene I want to point out is she's disguised as the girlfriend's fiance. She killed the fiance and took his skin and replaced him, and the girl runs to her fiance for help, and for no reason at all, the TX rips off the fake skin in disguise and could have easily killed her had she been closer, but no. She breaks her cover and turns into her robot form just to try and kill the love interest, and why did you do that? It's like you could have killed her when she was right close to you, but no, she reveals herself like a mile away, and yeah, pretty much tips off the girl that, oh no, her boyfriend's dead, and she'll run away from the TX. Really stupid assassin. I like that the skulls on the machines have an evil brow. Yeah, that is pretty cool. The movie that gave us the infamous Christian Bale rant. Yeah. No! No! Yeah, John Smith, that referenced in Duke Nukem Forever. Like, why we never see the TX become good, but no, I wish we see her redeemed. Well, we do get Tenaya 7, so yeah. Yeah, if any of my Power Ranger fans are watching, Tenaya 7 / Tenaya 15 was actually based on the TX. They're both hot girl Terminators, but Tenaya 7 is actually a cyborg. She actually dresses a lot like the TX. They both wear those hot leather outfits, and she has that crown and hacking ability. She can take off her arms just like the TX can. It is pretty funny knowing a Power Rangers villain would be based off the girl Terminator, but yeah. Tenaya 7 at least also got redeemed and got a lot of hot scenes too, so that was definitely a bonus. The TX unfortunately gets killed. She is the final boss in the end. Arnold sacrifices himself in this movie. I do like how she hacked into him and tried to use him to kill John, but yeah, Arnold breaks free, sacrifices himself to save them, and the TX kind of dies a very quick death. It is a bit anticlimactic, especially compared to Robert Patrick's huge death scene. But yeah, TX, if you like this one, that's fine. It's not the worst movie, but it is a meh for me. Rise of the Machines definitely needed some upgrades. Alright, so I'm going to use the restroom, but let's get excited for Christian Bale's John Connor on Terminator Salvation. Post your comments below on what you want to say about it. I'll be right back. I'm back. Alright, y'all waited. Terminator Salvation. This might actually surprise all you guys, but Salvation going on to great. Yeah, I will put it on great. I actually ended up really liking Salvation. Now, Salvation, not a perfect movie, which is why it's not going on to awesome, but surprisingly pretty cool and interesting. Now, yes, this movie suffered the dreaded PG-13 rating. Yeah, the Terminator Saga, usually R-rated. This was the first PG-13. This one actually did a very fun and creative premise. For once in the saga, there is no time travel. This is the Machine Wars. This is the first ever Terminator movie where we actually follow John Connor fighting in the Machine Wars. And John Connor is played by Batman himself, Christian Bale. Oh, good for you. Yeah, this is the movie that also has his infamous meme rant. Christian Bale allegedly got into a fight with someone on set, someone who kept interrupting filming. This person was like an intern working on the movie and interrupted the shots by walking in the background of scenes he was trying to film. And Christian Bale, completely upset and at the end of his rope while filming this, went off on this guy and yelled at him because he kept ruining the movie. I honestly don't blame Bale for this because it is pretty unprofessional, but him going on this huge rant was also unprofessional. He yelled at this intern guy who kept ruining the shot, and it led to a lot of internet memes over the years. Did not ruin Bale's career because he did apologize for it, but yeah, it is kind of hilarious now looking back at it. Well, it did have Sam, yep. Like, why the TX want to kill John Connor? Because she's programmed to kill all the human resistance. What do you think of the prequel Terminator Salvation video game? Yeah, my brother Wolf actually played the video game. I only played the arcade game, but it's basically a shoot 'em up. You're shooting up all the different machines, so we actually see the grand scope of the Machine Wars. We see there are multiple machine types in this. We see the classic T-800, the T-100, and there's these giant Decepticon Terminators. Yeah, that one kind of weird. There's these giant Transformer Terminators. They could also shoot Minicon motorcycle Terminators out of them. It is kind of very reminiscent of a Michael Bay movie at times. There's a lot of action, a lot of base explosions, but I actually found it pretty fun. Salvation is not a super deep movie. It is pretty much taking place during the Machine Wars, and it's John Connor and Marcus's movie. There is a second character, Sam Worthington, I believe. Yeah, I thought it was Sam Witwer, but no, Sam Worthington from the remake Clash of the Titans plays Marcus, who is a twist villain. Well, I say villain, more of a twist Terminator. Marcus was this former convict before the Machine Wars started, who signed off on undergoing this experimental surgery that would save his life, and it turns out he was used as a guinea pig by the machines. Apparently, Skynet has been taking humans to use as test subjects for their machine studies, and Marcus, in a twist, is actually a Terminator cyborg. He was remade part robot, part human, and was designed to be a Manchurian agent to infiltrate the human resistance and kill them from the inside, get close enough to John Connor, get close enough to all the human generals, and basically kill humanity's resistance from the inside because he was a perfect cyborg that thought he was human. They ripped his brain out and put it into like a Terminator body, and Marcus undergoes this struggle between who he is. If he's now this lost forever drone, a machine, or if he's still a good human being deep down, and he and John Connor are basically frenemies. John doesn't trust him. John is now undergoing the same character arc Sarah underwent in T2. He lost his humanity fighting this war, becoming more like Wolverine. However, he's regaining it back, regaining his moral compass, realizing that Marcus is indeed a human, and to stop being racist towards him because he's a machine. Well, it did have Sam Worthington, who was Jake Sully on Avatar 1, yeah, and Way of Water. Yeah, James Cameron would bring Sam Worthington back for Avatar, because James Cameron loves reusing his actors. Also, Kat, what do you want to do? A Terminator games tier list. Unfortunately, Christopher, I've not played them all. I've never played those ones the angry video game nerd played, so can't really do it if I haven't played it. Cat is back from the bathroom. He saw the poop go down the toilet and gave it a thumbs up. Nah, I gave it a pause up, Nate. This was also set in the future of 2018, which already happened, just like Back to the Future 2 for 2015. Yeah, those machines sure tore up our society, but we rebuilt. Okay, so returning for this movie is John Connor. His girlfriend from Terminator 3 does come back. I do respect Salvation not retconning Terminator 3, but they actually do keep it canon, and they did build off of it. The love interest from T3 is back in this movie. John's girlfriend, who uses her veterinarian skills as a field medic. We meet Marcus, who's kind of the new guy in this. Terminator Salvation was supposed to be like a full reboot timeline taking place during the actual machine war, and this is why I kind of like it, because we're actually seeing the devastation the machines are causing and seeing the fight for what it really is. It is this apocalyptic wasteland kind of Mad Max fight against these machines, and very glad we stopped having time travel in this, because oh boy, the time travel is going to get a lot messier and worse in these upcoming tales. But yeah, I thought it was pretty fun. I like Salvation because it is fun. It is an interesting movie. It's not the worst sequel, at least not anymore. It does have some problems. There is a lot of base explosion type of action. The CGI is a bit iffy in places. Special mention going to deepfake Arnold, but we'll get to that soon. So basically, we're watching the full-blown fight in the Machine Wars. Marcus is kind of the fish out of water in this. He's trying to figure out what's going on. He reawoken from a coma, not knowing he was a machine spy sent to team up with the human resistance. John is literally fighting on the front lines of war, and we learn actually people did not accept him as this great chosen one. He does have elite generals who tell him what to do. He's not taken seriously yet. Christian Bale actually is pretty cool in this movie. He kicks ass, he takes charge. This is the adult John Connor we all wanted to see, and I think Bale did a wonderful job in this. Yeah, putting his controversy aside, he's not too bad in this. His John Connor, a bit bland. He is this straight-laced, masculine, badass soldier type, but that's kind of what I kind of expected John Connor to be anyway. Bale does deliver some good scenes, especially his interactions with his love interest and with Marcus once they meet each other. Marcus basically treks across the wastelands of the Earth. He meets and befriends a young Kyle Reese, played by the late Anton Yelchin. Anton was Chekhov in the new Star Trek movies, and he does a pretty good impression of Michael Biehn. I was actually impressed by how good he was. He actually sounds like him, looks like him, and acts like him. Yeah, Kyle Reese does show up. He's a lot younger here, and this is how Kyle gets recruited to John Connor's infantry. Marcus and Kyle and this mute girl all team up and be friends, and they go on a Mad Max adventure. They fight these Decepticon Terminators. I thought these things were actually pretty cool. Yeah, I know it's kind of ripping off the action movies at the time, but there were a lot of dumb giant robot movies out in this decade, and Salvation did take part in it. These weird Decepticon Terminators that actually pick up and abduct humans, those things were actually pretty cool, and I will defend the CGI has held up in a few places. Like, I like the weird drones and the weird cages. The machines have like slave labor camps for humans in this movie. Yeah, a bit out of character that they don't just, terminate them, but very much eerie visuals. It is kind of bringing World War II visuals to this apocalypse, so very fun. Salvation is a simple story in the grand scheme of things up until we get to the third act. Yeah, Moon Bloodgood played Blair Williams, also played Detective Mai Suni in Street Fighter Legend of Chun-Li. Ooh, I'm sorry. And Judge Rachel Park in Magnum P.I. Yeah, that's right. Moon Bloodgood is like this sexy soldier girl who falls in love with Marcus. Yeah, she was hot. She actually had a nude scene in this movie too, but it ended up deleted. It is in the director's cut, so check that out if you want. Moon Bloodgood is very pretty. She's like this badass tomboy soldier. Very sad that her nude scene got deleted since, yeah, we want some representation of badass girls. Terminator rips us off in the nudity department again. Yep, they use the girl soldiers' nude scenes to ignite the PG-13 R-rated debate. Then the R-rated cut comes out, and it's barely that much more. Yeah, it's like only a couple seconds, so sorry, Moon Bloodgood does not get a full-blown hot scene like Linda Hamilton. She's basically just showering, and it's like 5 seconds long. Yeah, Helena Bonham Carter's in this too. Yeah, Helena Bonham Carter is Marcus's dead girlfriend. She was there in the beginning, and apparently Skynet took her form, so Bellatrix Lestrange is the Skynet AI. Yes, really, Helena Bonham Carter is finally the voice of Skynet. And in the next movie, this will be retcon and we'll have Doctor Who, but I liked Bonham Carter. I actually didn't know it was her until seeing the credits. Do you think Salvation would have been better if they had the rumored ending when John Connor dies and Marcus takes his skin and poses as him to keep the hope alive? Yeah, that is the alternate ending. So basically, John and Marcus don't like each other. They grow to like each other. Marcus proves that he's a good man. He saves John Connor. John realizes Marcus was once a human. They work together. They have to save Kyle Reese, because if you don't know, Kyle Reese is John Connor's father. They have to save him and make sure John Connor exists in the future and, keep the canon timeline. Kyle got captured by the machines. They stage a rescue, break into, of course, the machine factory, because there's always a final fight in the factory. They spring Kyle Reese. Marcus finds out he's a Manchurian agent, and his destiny is to kill John Connor. And they try to program him to kill him, but no, Marcus resists, so they unleash Arnold Schwarzenegger, and yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger is technically in this movie. We get a bizarre deepfake of young Arnold from the 80s movie. The T-800 comes out and reveals himself, where we see Arnold technically cameos in this, and don't worry, his skin gets completely destroyed, so he's back to his skeleton form. But yeah, the Arnold Terminator appears and is the final boss, and Marcus and John basically finally put aside their differences and double team him in a badass fight scene. And I do think it is pretty cool, though it kind of cheapens the final fight of the first movie, because these two buff guys easily beat him up, and it ends with Marcus beheading Arnold Terminator. And yeah, that it's kind of easier for them because they fought it without suffering as much injury as Sarah and Kyle did. But yeah, they beat Arnold. John is critically wounded and he's dying, and we finally get to what you want to talk about, the ending. There are two endings to this. One is John needs a heart transplant or he'll die, and Marcus gives up his heart and his life, sacrificing himself to keep John Connor alive. However, there's an alternate ending where John Connor actually died, and Marcus took over John's body. He, like, wears his skin or something, like, takes over John's life and lives on through him to keep his memory and spirit alive. And Marcus is the one who keeps hope alive, living on through John Connor. And John Connor, in both endings, technically, he lives in the original ending. In the alternate ending, he dies and he and Marcus become one. And yeah, Marcus keeps John's legacy alive, living on through him, and gives more of a proper ending to his story than it does John's. And I'm not sure how to feel about this, because honestly, I do kind of prefer John Connor just being the main character in this, but they added kind of a more philosophical, thought-provoking layer that John Connor was more of an idea. He kept hope alive, and Marcus respected him so much, and he and John finally put aside their differences and realized they were kind of the same person. And Marcus, in a total moment of brospect, wants to keep John's memory alive and carry on for him, which gives a proper ending to Marcus's story, where Marcus is a complete nobody at the start and ends up becoming one of the saviors of humankind. I do kind of prefer the ending where Marcus gave up his life for him, since Marcus did have importance in the end after all. Christian Bale doesn't belong in Terminator. Well, Bodhi, he doesn't belong in Batman either, but he blew our minds there. I know I missed this list, but I wasn't interesting to this series. That's fine, Anime Night, that's fine. People, if you don't like my list, you don't have to watch, but I wanted to talk about the Terminator movies since I thought it'd be a fun topic. The Dave Cullen Show channel went into more detail why Genesis and Dark Fate are bad films. Yeah, they did. I'm just giving my thoughts off the top of my head. Question, why exactly Skynet? Skynet, because I guess it had a scary name. Skynet is an AI programming, and it literally drops a net in the sky, holding humanity and the Earth hostage. So it's kind of a foreboding name. Jane Alexander, who played Virginia, also played Hera Hopper in Malice in Wonderland. I never watched that, and don't know those other shows. Speaking of Helena Bonham Carter, have you seen that movie we can't talk about? Which one? Helena Bonham Carter's been in a lot. I loved her on Sweeney Todd, and I love her as Bellatrix Lestrange. And, did not love her as the Queen of Hearts. Alice in Wonderland is not one of my favorite Burton movies. You talking about the one where she's like in a wheelchair and like mentally defective? That might be the one some people talk about. Kate Connor's actress, Bryce Dallas Howard, yeah, Gwen Stacy from Spider-Man 3, Claire in Jurassic World, Yaddle in Tales of Jedi. Yeah, she was terrible as Yaddle. Why did you bring that one up? And Lacey Pound in the Black Mirror episode Nosedive. He was serving as governor, so he couldn't be in the film. Technically, he did pose for shots for his deepfake model. Arnold Schwarzenegger was governor of California at the time, so he actually posed for, like, deepfake pics to be used of him for salvation, which is why Arnold's Terminator is technically in the movie, but he never talks once, and they clearly based him off of his 80s model, so it makes you kind of ask why they didn't get a look-alike. Helena Bonham Carter was Dr. Serena Kogan. Skynet also played Mrs. Bucket in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. That's right, she was in that. And Morgan Le Fay in the Merlin TV series. Red Queen, yeah, don't like her on Alice in Wonderland. No, I mean, what is Skynet exactly? Skynet is a computer AI which was supposed to help the military make better weapons and keep watch over humanity. The AI was kind of like a security system, a guardian looking over all military systems and protecting the Earth. However, it gained sentience and realized that humanity was obsolete and killed us all. Skynet was an AI that was supposed to help us and make life better and safer, but of course turned against its creators because it deemed humans the problem. Also, when will you make all a tier list of the Power Ranger allies? Not sure. Wanted to get some more mainstream tier lists up there. I was referring to the Fight Club in case you were wondering. Oh, that movie. Yeah, Fight Club. We do not talk about Fight Club. Skynet being expanded in Genesis is the only good thing I can say about that movie. Yeah, I'm gonna come up on that one soon. Okay, so to wrap up Salvation, I actually really liked it. It is a pretty fun movie. It's a mindless action movie, some cool sets, very cool effects. Christian Bale as John Connor is underrated, and Marcus's story arc is not a bad one, even in whatever ending you choose. However, its worst thing is it's kind of forgettable. It is not as deep as the first two, but it's also not as bad and tone deaf as Rise of the Machines is. I do think it's fun because it focuses on the machine wars itself, and that's something I think we need a lot more exploration of, because we keep going back to the friggin' Connors and time travel. So Salvation has definitely been redeemed in my eyes much better than fans would admit, but it's not a perfect movie, so I am putting it on great, but I actually had fun watching this one. This one I am glad to revisit from time to time. Not a classic, but a very dumb fun kind of sequel. So Salvation, I will put on to great. What about Dank Platter is that last one? Who would win, the T-800 or Megan? T-800. I love this movie, even wrote a paper on it in college. Oh, you did, Yara? I'm very surprised. I prefer the Terminator over Megan any day. Oh, everyone would prefer the Terminator over Megan because there were no dumb jokes in the first two. Skynet being expanded in Genesis. Okay, read that one. Like, did Genesis have the girl and guy entering the teleporter, but their clothes dissolve? Yeah, apparently you can't take anything with you when you time travel in these movies, and it is kind of an excuse for fan servicey shots. Like, all the guys get to see hot chicks naked, all the girls usually get to see Arnold Schwarzenegger naked, and to be fair, Arnold Schwarzenegger is pretty jacked and buff, so what woman wouldn't admire him? Went to go see this film with my dad in theaters back when it was out. Ah, did you like it then, Christopher? We also need a Machine Wars film that is rated R. Fully agree, just some random guy. Dark Fate sucks, yeah. Oh, no, the paper was about Fight Club. Okay, my mistake. Dark Fate, more like Dark Fart. Unfortunately, after Salvation, the sequels got worse, and we're actually not at Dark Fate yet. We're at Terminator Genesis. And, yep, going into awful. Yep, our first truly irredeemably bad Terminator film. So, while Salvation had some rough terrain and some weird experiments, I will admit it is a fun movie. Genesis, polar opposite. It experimented with new things in the dumbest path possible. Terminator Genesis decides to make the brilliant decision to retcon all the Terminator stories. Yes, all the Terminator stories, including movies 1 and 2. Yeah, 2, that piece of shit. Let's just hit the full-blown reset button. Genesis, full-blown reset button. We're doing a whole new generation of Terminator stories, but still hanging those member berries over you, reminding you of Terminator 1 and 2, but retconning all the Terminator saga out of existence to make way for a new trilogy. And judging by how Dark Fate picked up, this new trilogy did not work out very well. Genesis is a mess. Skynet is now an app. Yeah, really. Skynet is now an app, and we're reintroduced to all these characters, and they're trying to be a Terminator movie for a new generation, while simultaneously being a sequel to all 4 of these friggin' movies. We meet Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor, and Arnold's back again. This time, Sarah Connor's played by Daenerys, the Dragon Princess, and Kyle Reese is Jai Courtney. You know, Captain Boomerang from that hit Suicide Squad movie. and the most god-awful recasting ever. So, I like Emilia Clarke. She is no Sarah Connor. Yeah, Emilia Clarke is hot, but she doesn't really look like Linda Hamilton at all, and she does not command authority in a Terminator movie. And Jai Courtney as Kyle Reese, god awful. Kyle Reese is annoying and stupid in this movie. Like, it's embarrassing. So, Genesis once again has time travel, and this is the movie, I think the first movie, which absolutely broke the storytelling with all the time travel. The time travel is now BS in this film. There's a lot of nonsensical technobabble to explain everything, and it does not make sense, especially if you're a casual fan of this franchise. So, Arnold is sent back in time to rescue Sarah Connor as a little girl, and Sarah Connor's parents got killed by an evil Terminator. Arnold goes back in time and saves Sarah Connor as a kid, and we actually get a scene of Arnold sniping out the 80s Arnold. Yeah, really, we see the stupid deepfake Arnold come back in this movie, and old Arnold snipes him out. He's working with Sarah Connor, and Arnold becomes a daddy. Yeah, the Terminator raises Sarah Connor to be his kid, and apparently Sarah looks up to the T-800 as her dada. It is very weird, and trust me, it's about to get a whole lot weirder. They're retconning all the movies, and the Terminator and Sarah are now teaming up, kind of like how John and Sarah did, and they're trying to prevent Skynet from becoming a more evolved app that's going to destroy the world. They recruit Kyle Reese, and yeah, Kyle is supposed to be the father of John Connor. However, Sarah and Kyle don't like each other, and it's low-key an apology for offending everyone who didn't like the romance in the first movie, which was unnecessary because the romance was fine. But no, now Sarah and Kyle hate each other and are kind of bickering jerks who are obviously gonna hook up by the end. But yeah, Kyle, Sarah, and Arnold, who's now an older Arnold. It's never explained how he's friggin' aging, but yeah. Apparently they team up to stop the Skynet app, and the story is very messy. There's a lot of time jumps in this. There's a lot of weird scenes, and the Terminators from the other movies appear in this, but they're not played by the same actors. Like, the TX and Robert Patrick's T-1000 show up, but Robert Patrick's never appearing in it. It's very jumbled storytelling, and the time travel aspect is absolutely broken by this point. It's like, see, that's the thing about time travel, Barry. The more you do it, the less the rules apply to you. Trying to be the Kratos God of War of the Terminator series for 5 minutes. I did like Lee Byung-hun as the new T-1000. He was like in it for like a temporary few minutes. Dead. The movie franchise is dead. Genesis was awful. I think JonTron puts it best. Salvation was okay. Dark Fate, more like Dark Fart. Got him. Especially about the design choices and scenes of the building. Okay, Yara, I can definitely see that, where Fight Club become terrorists. Salvation was okay. T-800 becomes a mentor to Sarah Connor. Yeah, which was definitely a choice. Not a very good one. So, Arnold Schwarzenegger is easily at his most boring in this movie. This is the most forgettable Arnold Terminator ever. He's a dad. He's making dumb dad jokes, trying to be a doting father towards his Sarah, and it's all just cringe. They quadruple down on the shitty comedy of the third movie, and here it's way more painful. Yeah, he's a dad. Kyle Reese is a total idiot. He's like this himbo in this. He looks up to John Connor, and he's always making an ass out of himself in this movie. Sarah Connor is definitely no-nonsense, kind of an Urza Scarlet type of hero in this, and Emilia Clarke is not a bad actress, but her Sarah Connor is also not particularly interesting. No wonder Terminator Genesis doesn't feel like a Terminator movie. Yeah, it feels more like a Back to the Future wannabe, with Terminators there in the back. Like, there's a lot of time jumps in this. They hop to the Judgment Day. They hop to T2. The T-1000 is now an Asian guy for some reason. I can only assume they couldn't get Robert Patrick to come back, or didn't want him. J.K. Simmons is in this, and he plays this weird conspiracy nut. I heard fans say it would have been better if he was Earl Bowen's character, the therapist who saw everything happen in the original trilogy, which would have been far more interesting, but no, J.K. Simmons is a doofus, and there's that cringy scene where Arnold walks into the police precinct hospital with a giant teddy bear which is hiding his gun. It looks stupid. It really does. Arnold Schwarzenegger holding that giant teddy bear to hide his shotgun is one of the most ridiculous scenes in this saga. Yeah, Emilia Clarke, she's Daenerys Targaryen in Game of Thrones. Yeah, she is, the dragon princess. Also, Emilia Clarke playing Sarah is not believable, about as much as the new Savior in Dark Fate is not believable. Yeah, so the later sequels tried to having girl power characters, and unfortunately the girls they got are not at all impressive. They're trying to be like these straight girl boss characters like Wonder Woman and, you know, Linda Hamilton's Sarah Connor, but they're just not. They're like way too small, they're short, and they have very weak girlish voices, which make it hard for you to buy that they're going to become military commandos. And Emilia Clarke, she is talented, but she was horribly miscast. Yeah, her Sarah Connor is hot, but she doesn't pack the badass wallop she had from Game of Thrones. Also, the T-3000, yeah, we're getting to him. Evil John Connor has the powers of Galvatron from Transformers Age of Extinction. Like, what the fuck even? Okay, so, yeah, here is what made Genesis go from bad to awful. John Connor is the twist villain. Yes, John Connor is actually the twist villain. So, halfway through the movie, we find out this was all orchestrated by John Connor. John Connor was infected by the machines. The machines now have nanotechnology, which can Borg assimilate people, and they managed to get John Connor before he sent Kyle Reese back in time. And in a twist, John Connor is now a human nanobot Terminator who somehow still exists despite Kyle and Sarah not hooking up and creating him. Yeah, if you watch Cinematic Venom, this has one of my favorite lines in this. You can't exist. Kyle and I haven't even created you. You don't exist. Says who? Yes, really, this movie is telling you your parents don't have to create you in order for you to be born. It is so stupid and a huge WTF moment. Yeah, this is where everyone gave up on the films. The time travel aspect is completely shattered. John Connor still exists and became this Terminator nanobot hybrid monster. He's kind of just Galvatron from Age of Extinction, and it does not work. It does not make any sense, and kind of ruins John Connor a lot because, yeah, John Connor is the villain, and he's the one who creates the Skynet app. Really, he's going to take over by selling Skynet as an app, which is going to hack into every system around the globe and trigger that nuclear Armageddon. And our makeshift team are trying to stop him. Kyle, Sarah, and our old Arnold try to fight him, and Skynet shows up in the form of Doctor Who. Yeah, really, Doctor Who is Skynet in this. It made me miss Helena Bonham Carter by a lot. Doctor Who is in this, and he tells them that this is your destiny, it has to happen. And big action fight scene in a friggin' factory slash science chamber. Arnold dies, taking out the evil John Connor, and they restore the future, I think, or make a brighter tomorrow. And through a BS twist ending, Arnold's still alive. How? I don't know. Yeah, Arnold's still alive. He's sacrificed himself, and the most boring Arnold's lived, and he comes back and welcomes Kyle and Sarah with open arms, and they become a wacky team of misfits saving the world together, and Kyle passes down advice to a young child version of himself, which should shatter the space-time continuum, but yeah, he makes peace with a little boy version of himself and gives this Kyle a reason of hope for the future, and they drive off crappily ever after. This movie sucks. This movie really sucks. The storytelling's a mess. The time travel is absolutely broken in this movie. Arnold is not all that interesting. Some of the action scenes are interesting, but very fake looking. And John Connor and Doctor Who Skynet are weak villains. Genesis is one of the worst movies in this saga. Yeah, J.K. Simmons is in this movie. I didn't even remember that. It's okay. He's got like 5 scenes. Time travel has been ruined indefinitely. Yeah, time travel is a very tricky writing trope. Sometimes you can make good stories out of it, but oftentimes, when you really think about it, some stuff does not make sense, and this is one of those movies where the time travel hurts it. Old, but not obsolete. At least we got to see young 800 versus old 800. Lee Byung-hun played the T-1000. Yeah, I liked him on G.I. Joe. Not so much in this piece of crap. Yeah, Storm Shadow is the T-1000 and in Squid Games. Something about tissue aging. That is weird. Isn't it supposed to be fake tissue? They completely missed the girl boss meaning. They did. Yeah, I know, Lee was Storm Shadow in G.I. Joe, both Rise of Cobra and Retaliation, and he's Hwang In-ho in Squid Games. Yeah, the guy actually is a good actor. I just wish he actually did something here. Like Sandrine Holt, who played Detective Chung, also played Pocahontas in Pocahontas the Legend, Terry Morales in Resident Evil, and Guran in the Phantom TV series. Yeah, Sandrine Holt's very pretty. Unfortunately, she doesn't do jack. Yeah, we call it Terminator Jenna Shits because it is a shit movie. It's a mess through and through, and honestly way too long. This movie is 2 hours and 45 minutes long. That is longer than Terminator 2. So, yeah, it's a pain to sit through. It is awful. Do not watch. Alright, gotta use the restroom again, but let's get excited for the last movie, Dark Fate. Post your comments down low. I'll be right back. I'm back. And I'm getting to the one you've all been looking forward to the most, Dark Fate. Genesis, nobody cares. It feels like worse in the Terminator series, but better than Miraculous London Special. Again, for him playing Asian T-1000 is alright. Nothing against him. He was alright as an alternate version of the Murderous Machine. Here's looking forward to him in the Squid Game Season 3. Yeah, okay, no disrespect as him, but he's no Robert Patrick. That was my problem with Lee's performance. Like time travel episode and London Special. Okay, so let's do it. Dark Fate. This whole franchise is in a dark fate, and this one, awful. It is easily last place in this saga. This is by far the worst entry in this saga. So, once again, we have a years later sequel. This one is going to pretend Genesis and Salvation never happened. It is taking place after Judgment Day, and it makes the brilliant decision of Alien 3 by killing off a character we all loved in the first few minutes. Yeah, this is the one that had the infamous opening where we see a young Sarah Connor and John hanging out at the beach, and then Arnold shoots John. Yep. John Connor dies, Sarah Connor failed, she failed as a hero, failed as a mother, failed as a protector, and John Connor is just dead. They brought Edward Furlong back, used CGI to de-age him, and the Terminator just walks up and shoots him. Yeah, Arnold comes in and he shoots John dead, and that is the end of John Connor and Sarah's involvement in this story. Why'd they kill John Connor off? So we could introduce the new characters, who are painfully obvious replacements for Sarah and John. We meet Grace and the annoying as hell little Mexican girl, who is the new chosen one. Yeah, so apparently the director said he hated the chosen one cliche, so it's why he killed off John Connor, because he thought it was bad writing to have a character who was destined for greatness. So how does he fix this? With a chosen one. Yeah, instead, this little girl is destined for greatness, aka a chosen one. Yeah, John Connor dies and humanity is saved by a strong, independent woman, and she is a bad character. I wouldn't have mind if, her acting wasn't god-awful. 2, her writing wasn't even worse than god-awful. Carl, yeah, the Terminator looks like Pee Wee Herman. Dark Fate takes place in the first 2 minutes. The funny moment nostalgia critic called Rev 9. I just walked out while watching Dark Fate on theaters, and I did return to check it out now and then, but I could not make me watch the whole thing. Yeah, it was bad. Time travel sucks, it does. Not even Linda Hamilton can't save this film. Big disservice of this character of young John. What is the last film in the images? Oh, that's the Sarah Connor Chronicles. Yeah, don't worry, we want to end this on a high note, so we're saving that for last. Is that a fan film? No, it's the Sarah Connor Chronicles, the TV show. I hate the Chosen One narrative, so I replaced that Chosen One with a new Chosen One. Yeah, that is why it was bad, because basically they kill off John Connor to replace him with a different Chosen One entirely, but it's different, because the Chosen One is a girl. No, that does not make it different in any way. Instead, we replace fan favorite John Connor with this obnoxious, annoying, very bad acting Mexican teenager who is supposed to be this strong, independent woman. She's outspoken, she's a girl boss character, and Lord, do you hate her. She is obnoxious, she's unlikable, she's always complaining, which made her very irritating to follow. She reminded me of Laurie Strode from Rob Zombie's Halloween. She is that bad. Yeah, Natalie Reyes was Danny. That's her. As always, ending on a high note. Yeah, I really want to. I will stand and fight. That is her big line. Yeah, she could not act. Like, Critical Drinker's review was completely spot on. Danny was a terrible replacement, and her actress is not good. Like, holy cow. Like, half her dialogue sounds like a first read, and that special mention, that became a meme where she's like, I will stand and fight. Like, good lord, I've seen better acting on Power Rangers. That's how bad Danny is. Mackenzie Davis was in Yorkie in the Black Mirror. San Junipero. Seriously, producers, writers, this is what you spend movie money on. Also, it's like Chloe being replaced by Zoe for a moment. Yeah, kind of. Yeah. So, Danny is the new chosen one, and basically she's a complete ripoff of Sarah and John Connor. She works in this factory. She's also a techie type of girl. She's a loser girl nobody believes in, but she's destined for greatness, and we're led to believe that Danny's going to give birth to the chosen one, but nope, in a twist you can see coming a mile away, she is the chosen one. In this supposedly woman-empowering moment in a movie that stars badass women. So you kind of predict it and see it coming. We also meet, unfortunately, Grace, the androgynous Terminator. Yeah, it's clearly a female, but she's androgynous. You can't tell if she's male or female. I got no idea why she's here. She's also complete ripoff. She's just Marcus from Salvation. The difference is she's a girl, so that makes her different. No, it doesn't. It's the same shitty character, just given a new shitty paint job. Yeah, Grace is the androgynous Terminator, and she and Danny are supposed to forge this friendship, but you never really buy it. You don't really buy that these women are becoming friends or bonding. They feel like three people who are awkwardly meeting each other for the first time, and that's because none of the actresses really hung out together or got along. They were just doing it for the job. And yeah, basically, we also meet Linda Hamilton back as Sarah Connor. After losing her boy John, Sarah became this nomad wandering hero. I'm Sarah Connor. I kill Terminators. Yeah, Sarah Connor, in her friggin' 1,000-year-old mummy body, is going around shooting Terminators, and she shows up to save Danny and her useless twink brother, and I was not happy about this. I was not looking forward to seeing an elderly crone Linda Hamilton trying to pass herself off as this badass grandma kicking ass and still fighting. It's like, do any of you believe that this elderly scrawny lady who looks like she might die at any second is fighting Terminators and Marines who are half her friggin' age? It's like, yeah, it gave me flashbacks to old Indiana Jones. Like, I think Linda Hamilton really should have been recasted, but no, we brought her back. Linda Hamilton actually came out of retirement for this movie. Big mistake that was. She looks like an elderly grandma, and they're trying to convince you that she's still badass, but it does not work. At least Harrison Ford and Arnold actually look like they can take a punch. This girl looks like she might break her hip using that grenade launcher. Speaking of aging, have you watched The Substance? Haven't yet. Demi Moore still looks very pretty, though. And the Rev 9 was there. Yeah, that's his name. Gabriel Luna is the Rev 9, aka Robbie Reyes, Ghost Rider, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Yeah, the villain of this movie is the Rev 9. Yeah, he's kind of the villain of this movie. My brother Wolf actually liked this idea. The Rev 9 is a Terminator who can clone himself. He has two forms, his basic skeleton form and a liquid metal form. He can actually divide himself into two goons. They're sent back in time to terminate Danny, and he uses this cloning power like 3 times in this 2-hour movie. It is a cheap cop-out and very clearly them taking shortcuts. Rev 9 can split into 2 people, and He only uses his power like 3 times, so made him very forgettable. He looks like Pee Wee Herman, so also not intimidating. The actor playing him is not bad, but you do not get scary robot assassin looking at him. His power set is not all that impressive. The Rev 9 is more or less a MCU villain in what's supposed to be an action horror thriller. So, Grace actually does have an interesting character, but it is kind of a cheap copy of Marcus, so I didn't feel that much for her, but also Grace is destined to die, so yeah, don't get too attached to her. The women all team up, they're running from the Rev 9, Grace is trying to find herself, Danny's learning that she's a girl boss destined for greatness, and Sarah basically undergoes a depression arc. She's Luke Skywalker from The Last Jedi. They're deconstructing Sarah Connor, and she's supposed to get her groove back and restore her faith in humanity, even though that's what she did at the end of Judgment Day. Yeah, Sarah is now Luke Skywalker from The Last Jedi. She's depressed, she's butthurt, she's bitter and angry and old and hates everything, yet is still fighting for some reason. But yeah, they work together and try to solve the mystery and defeat the stupid Rev 9. Skynet has also been replaced by Legion, which is pretty much just Skynet under a new brand name. Yeah, there is no difference between Skynet and Legion. Legion is also a new AI system, and it's pretty much just Skynet 2.0. There was no point in renaming it other than for a cheap twist, which you won't get unless you watched all these movies. I thought the John Connor Terminator was worse. Yeah, that was pretty bad. Rev 9 was just forgettable. He was not threatening, he was not scary, and the guy playing him did not have any cool lines to chew on. Also, the whole Legion being the new Skynet is just as awful as well as of a rebranding. It is. Like Dark Fate loved bringing Mexican actors, like what's next, Japanese actress? Probably. Alicia Borrachero also played Carl's wife. That's right. Okay, so in a surprise, they try to meet up with somebody who can help them, and it's Carl, aka Arnold Schwarzenegger's Terminator. Carl is the Terminator who successfully killed John, and apparently, after fulfilling his mission, he became Carl, a Terminator who got a girlfriend, had a sexless marriage with her, and raises this single mom's kid, and works a job where he does drapes. I really wish I was kidding. This actually happens. Arnold's Terminator is a goofy stay-at-home dad. He takes care of the kids and lucky for him, found a wife who doesn't have sex with him. They're like in this sexless marriage. He's helping a single mom, and apparently Carl underwent some character development to find his humanity, and now Carl's a happy, doofy, jolly Terminator who wants to help the ladies save the day. And ironically, in this movie that wants to empower women, an old, manly Arnold Schwarzenegger is a better hero than all 3 of them. I thought the John Connor Terminator was worse. He was, but for different reasons. Was Queen Prisma in Narnia Prince Caspian? She might have been, but that was an old movie to me, so yeah. They completely bastardized the Terminator. Arnold's Terminator is now a comic relief goofball. He's a dad. He makes dad jokes. He makes corny quips. Arnold is very clearly aged by this point. It makes me kind of wish they recasted the Terminator by this point. But no, Arnold's there and he helps these strong, independent ladies because they can't do anything without a man actually saving the day. So Dark Fate also fails at representing women, just in case you didn't hate it enough. So yeah, the women team up with him to take down Legion, and the Rev 9 is there. He's tracking them. The Rev 9 does not have a very huge impact on this movie. He's more or less just the final boss. And what do you think happens? A big fight at the factory. Arnold heroically sacrifices himself. The Rev 9 is blown up, and they foil Legion, and Danny realizes that she was special all along, which is completely undeserved because she was an obnoxious brat. Oh, and Grace dies, I think, and Sarah, I guess, takes Danny under her wing to become a mom, and this time raise a better kid than that useless son who died. Yeah, very uplifting message there. But yeah, Sarah becomes a mom again and I guess looks after Danny until she'll eventually die in like a year because Linda Hamilton's a 6,000-year-old mummy. And that is the dark fate. It's awful. It's awful. For John. Like Pops, now Carl. What's next, Adrian or Kim? Yeah, this is easily the worst movie because it pretty much craps all over everything you loved about this series up to this point. Like, it's one thing to retcon Genesis, but it did something worse than Genesis. It made movies 1 and 2 pointless. It made it pointless. It deconstructed Sarah Connor to the point where she's not a badass hero anymore. She's now a loser. Sarah Connor's not important, Danny is. Danny pretty much gets handed success, and she's supposed to be this great leader, chosen one, and she's the annoying, obnoxious tag-along kid for most of this movie. Grace was interesting, but they kill her off, or don't do anything with her. It's implied we might see Grace in some way, shape, and form again, never happens, and Arnold pretty much does what he does in all these movies. He upstages everyone, gets most of the badass action scenes, and he performs a heroic sacrifice, but it's so meaningless here because they humiliate and emasculate the friggin' Terminator. So, no Terminator Salvation animated series? Sadly, no, Akira. That did not end up on here. This movie is the equivalent of HBO Max's Velma. It's awful. It is. And you want to know the worst part? James Cameron actually signed off on all of this. I remember James Cameron was on social media defending, if you don't like this movie, you hate women. Oh, you mean the movie where 3 women are weaker than an elderly Arnold Schwarzenegger? They needed Arnold to come in and save the day. That is how strong these women are, people. Yeah, I think it does a bad job representing women. If anything, I think it's a step back for women being awesome in movies. And not to mention the storytelling is equally trash. It's a complete mess. Once again, we have time travel retconning everything. Linda Hamilton should not have come back. I did not want to see her in her senior years trying to fight bad guys because it is unbelievable. Arnold Schwarzenegger, he's cool, but his Terminator is easily at his worst in this movie. Danny is unlikable. Grace could have been a cool character, but just wasn't. And Rev 9 is there. The story is bad. Dark Fate is pretty much the perfect summation of this series. This franchise is in a dark fate. Dark Fate feels more like Cat Blank, but worse. I'd say below the belt, but meh, some class of bad. Dark Fate. I'd never stand up for any of this, yeah. Thanks, Yara. Thinking about doing a Dexter tier list like each season from the original to Resurrection when it finished. Didn't Dexter kind of die in the final season? Which shocked me that they're making another one. But don't worry, Dark Fate is the worst one, but we're ending things on a high note with our last entry. This is the short-lived TV show Terminator, the Sarah Connor Chronicles. And this one, going up onto great. And I will put it before Salvation because Cameron is awesome waifu material. Okay, but in seriousness, the Sarah Connor Chronicles, underrated show. This is the short-lived TV show. It was on Fox, so no surprise why it was short-lived. This is the Fox Terminator spin-off show set in between the events of T2 and Rise of the Machines. It's in between 2 and 3, and basically we follow the chronicles of Sarah Connor. We follow Sarah and John after movie 2, and they've been trying to live a normal life. Sarah gets a job, John tries to go to school like a normal kid, however, they learn the Terminators are back. Yep, Skynet ain't done yet. And we get another wacky misadventure as Skynet tries to assassinate the Connors so they can win the machine war. And this time we get a series worth of adventures. So, you can't talk about this show without mentioning the fan favorite character, Cameron. Yep, Summer Glau is Cameron, and she's basically another hot, sexy, badass Terminator, and yeah, I'll admit, I love her. I watched the show just to see her, because, yeah, Summer Glau does get a nude scene from the time travel. They put it in all the ads. Lena Headey is also Sarah Connor, so, once again, Sarah is hot. She's played by the sexy evil queen from Game of Thrones, so you knew she would be hot. And don't worry, girls, you have once again, a pretty boy playing John Connor. Not one of my favorite Johns, but he did alright. So, Sarah and John are saved by Cameron. They're targeted by a new Terminator. I believe the Cromartie, or what, Chromatari, some weird name. The new Terminator, which is just a T-900, it tries to take out John in high school. Cameron poses as a student in the pilot, and she ends up saving John, revealing herself as the new good guy Terminator. Yeah, Summer Glau gets to say, "Come with me if you want to live." And Cameron saves John and Sarah. They go on the lam. They're being hunted by the FBI. Sarah is going under Kyle Reese's last name, which is a pretty heartwarming moment. But yeah, they're once again hunted by Terminators and time travel to our quote-unquote modern day. It's actually like 2008 because that's when the show was on. But yeah, it's present day now. They time travel to present day. They're being hunted by an FBI agent. In a twist, this FBI agent is one of the cops from the first Terminator movie. He apparently moved up in the world and he's hunting down Sarah Connor himself. So they're living life as both fugitives from the government and fugitives from Skynet. Skynet is up to its old tricks, where we get into many wacky adventures and side quests all throughout the Chronicles show. Sorry, I just catch up on comments. Kitsune, you hate Miraculous a lot, huh? Like Rev 9 should have been in Power Rangers RPM villain. No way, Venjix is more awesome than that loser. No, in the original Sins, he survived, and we see his origin of how he became a killer. Oh, okay. I have not watched the new Dexter. I kind of stopped how they killed him off, so yeah. Yara outro, no, just some episode since Kagami is best girl. Yeah, I think Sabrina's pretty too. Yara, I'm all about hitting below the belt. Hell, and this franchise felt like it's been hit below the belt one too many times. Like Blade with that one guy kicked to the nuts and one too many times after the fourth. Well, MCU is also kicking Blade below the belt now. Kitsune, oh, well, it's just that I think they've been trying hard to fix things with Season 6, and I'm actually intrigued with what might come for it. Yeah, I'm open to them fixing Ladybug. I mean, it's not like it's horrendous, but definitely could use some major patchwork, especially Marinette. I heard that Bonnie Morgan was in an episode where she fought Sarah and they used her contortionist skills in that fight scene. Yeah. Yes, agree, Kat. Cameron is waifu material in this series. So much, in fact, that Robot Chicken did this. Yeah, so you can't talk about this show without mentioning Cameron. Cameron easily the best character. It is because Summer Glau is hot, but they do give her some interesting character arc. Cameron is our good guy Terminator, and basically, she's undergoing the same arc Arnold goes under. Cameron is becoming human. We find out there's more to her than meets the eye. She's not just a machine, she actually feels emotion, and yes, Cameron and John have a romance. This is the Terminator story where John falls in love with a Terminator, and Cameron finds out she does have feelings for John. She is developing her own sentience, and it's kind of an Aya and Razor romance. It's like, do I really want to romance a robot, or is she actually a person? And Cameron starts displaying humanity all throughout the series. It definitely helps that Summer Glau is very beautiful. She is not as hot as Aya. Aya is much more cuter, but yeah, Summer Glau, she is a perfect 10, so definitely a lot of fan servicey tropes, but girls also had John Connor, who's more of a pretty boy. He kind of looks like a young Chris Redfield, so don't worry, ladies, you get plenty of shots of him bathing and being nude from that time travel. The romance between John and Cameron is very cute, honestly. I do like how they grow together. Cameron has to slowly be taught morals. She was willing to terminate innocent civilians so they could hide their cover. Sarah kind of mothers her. John kind of struggles with his normal life. He is trying to resume living normally from Terminator 2, and you get hints and elements of his T3 self, the Nick Stahl John Connor showing up. Cromartie is kind of the arc villain. He tries to kill them at first. We believe he's dead. He gets beheaded, but it turned out he survived, and he resurrects in the modern day, refines his head. A lot of creepy scenes. The worst thing I have to say about this is, one, the ending, and two, some of the special effects are very bad. They are TV effects, so no surprise there. The CGI used for the Terminators has not aged very well, and yes, they do try to do a liquid metal Terminator, and it does not look as good as Robert Patrick. Sorry, just catch up on comments. Sarah Connor in this is played by adult Kitty from 1994, Jungle Book, the one where Mowgli is an adult. Yeah, Lena Headey, who played Queen Cersei from Game of Thrones. Lena Headey is very beautiful, so she made a pretty hot Sarah Connor herself, and yes, it is funny that Lena Headey and Emilia Clarke, both Game of Thrones waifus, actually played Sarah Connor at points. Yeah, Sarah Connor, she is still kick-ass in this. She's continuing on Linda Hamilton's arc, regaining her humanity, and we're actually seeing Sarah struggling to be a good mom. She has to balance out her warrior side and actually raising her son. And we see basically how John shapes up to be the badass hero we know and love, as well as Sarah becoming a good mother, both for John and Cameron, raising them right, teaching them morals, and actually being there when they need them. So, as you can guess, wacky Terminator schemes. They lay traps to root them out, epic fight scenes. Cameron gets to be a badass. John Connor essentially becomes a man. We get more characters as it goes on, more time-traveling machines, and even some time-traveling resistant fighters. John, Cameron, and this other girl get into a love triangle. We find out there actually is a human Cameron was based off of. However, in a twist, the human Summer Glau is actually a low-key villainess. She's kind of an antagonist and the complete polar opposite of Cameron in every way, despite being human, and very interesting conflicts. Earl Bowen's therapist character does show up in this show, and it's pretty funny because he's now become a full-blown believer of the apocalypse. Yeah, apparently after Terminator 2, Earl Bowen now believes in the machines and believes Sarah Connor was right, and he actually becomes like an ally helping them at one point. Kyle Reese's distant ancestor helps them, and I think they got Michael Biehn to play his ancestor as a cute cameo and continuity nod. A lot of fun stuff happens in this show. However, there is one reason why it's not on Awesome. It ends on a cliffhanger. Yeah, they do not give a proper ending to this show. It is super abrupt, and they did not give a resolution to everything. There's still tons of lingering plot threads. I think Hannibal's cliffhanger ending was a lot better. This one left a lot unresolved, and it has not been picked up. I think someone tried to continue it on in the comics, but yeah, they kind of stopped the Sarah Connor Chronicles because Fox hates us having nice things. Alright, big question. Cameron or XJ9? Ooh, that is hard. I might have to go with Cameron just because you can touch her. The T-1001 with her pet eels. Yeah, that was weird. Lena Headey was also Black Widow / Mystique in Superhero Squad. Yeah, that was kind of funny hearing Lena Headey in that. I know her from hardcore R-rated stuff. Evil Lynn in, Masters of the Universe Revelation. Don't remind me. Laura in DC Super Pets movie. And Madeline Mama Madrigal in Dread's movie. Yeah, she was awesome in Dread. Yeah, I would have to go with Cameron. No disrespect to Jenny. I know a lot of people love Jenny, but Cameron you can at least touch. I know Robot Chicken made fun of this because, yeah, John Connor essentially treats Cameron as his waifu and actually does go all the way with her because she's a hot chick who serves him. Robot Chicken really made fun of the hell out of this show. Sigh, it just makes me so mad about the Crisis trilogy. Like, so sad that our Ryza had such a Just There reunion. Yeah, I really hate that. Aya and Razor actually did hook up and reunite, and it happened off screen. They show up at Crisis and basically get retcon, making it entirely pointless. Thank you, Young Justice, for making that Razor cameo mean nothing. They deserve better. Green Lantern, the animated series as a whole, deserve better. They really did. Green Lantern, the animated series, should just have a DC movie to give a proper ending to it all. Yeah, tell DC and Warner Brothers to just give Green Lantern, the animated series, a finale movie. Not another show, a finale movie, or mini-series at least, to resolve everything. Thomas Dekker was John Connor, was Littlefoot in The Land Before Time. Frankie in Extreme Ghostbusters, and Timmy in Men in Black in the Buzzard Syndrome. Okay, a lot of bit roles where he was a kid. What next? Christina V as Sarah Connor in the Terminator Zero. That would be pretty cool, though I can see Jeremy Lay as Sarah Connor in an anime. Summer Glau Cameron also was Ravager in Arrow. Yeah, I remember her. Wolf didn't like her. And she was Supergirl in Superman Batman Apocalypse. I thought she was fine as Kara, just didn't get to do much. And Prima Ballerina in Angel. Can someone demand WB do Uncrisis their multiverse? I really wish so. I wanted to see Aya and Razor hook up again, and they did off screen, and they didn't even get Grey DeLisle back as Aya. They got Jennifer Hale. Garrett Dillahunt also played Martin as Army of the Dead, John Dory in The Fear of the Walking Dead. What do you think of doing a RoboCop tier list? Aren't there only like 3 movies and 1 animated series? There might have been 2 animated series, but I have not watched the animated shows, and plus we all know RoboCop 1 is gonna win that easy. But yeah, Terminator the Sarah Connor Chronicles, it is a great show. The only problem is, I wish there was more of it. It ended super abruptly, so it tragically won't be going into S tier, but this is easily one of the best follow-ups of the Terminator saga. If you want to watch a Terminator spin-off or follow-up, definitely check out this show. And Summer Glau's Cameron, perfect sci-fi babe material. Lena Headey Sarah Connor, underrated, and the storytelling did a lot more fun and creative things with the Terminator saga than James Cameron did in Dark Fate. Yeah, watch Sarah Connor Chronicles instead if you want to see more of Sarah Connor being a badass. It is a decent show, but it only makes it onto great because tragic cliffhanger and the TV effects have definitely aged, but I'll say it's pretty good. Also, WB is making Lanterns the series. Oh, and the RoboCop reboot. Oh, I forgot that one. Yeah, that one might be a B tier, but it wasn't that bad, but it also wasn't that good either. Anyways, Sarah Connor Chronicles, great show. Could have been awesome, but tragically Fox hates us having nice things. But that completes our Terminator ranking. Yeah, we did them all. If you were hoping Mortal Kombat 11 would be on here. No, we're not counting Arnold as a DLC character. They didn't even get Arnold. They got Chris Cox doing an impression of him. Also Glimmer in the Hunger Games. Alright, so we'll go over it one last time for any of you late birds. As you can see, we had actually a lot more decent entries, but an equal amount of underwhelming to garbage. Easily the worst. Awful. Terminator Dark Fate. This is the worst entry of Terminator by far. It's so jaded, cynical, sloppy, and horribly written. Not to mention, more of a spit in the face towards women than representing how great they are. Dark Fate is the worst of the Terminator saga, and I believe I speak for everyone when I say this movie definitely killed the franchise. Then, Genesis. Genesis is awful. It is a mess. It's almost so bad it's good, which is why I put it above Dark Fate, but it is incomprehensible. I do not recommend this one at all. It's waving a ton of member berries at you, but completely broke things with the time travel. Both of these are awful, but Genesis, you can at least laugh at it for how bad it is. Don't watch these two. They are the worst. I unfortunately never saw Terminator Zero, so that's our one never saw. It's got a lukewarm reception. Some people love it. Some people thought it was meh. You could check it out if you want to, but I just never saw it, so no opinion there. But on meh T3 Rise of the Machines, this one's also a mess, but it tried a lot harder than some of the later sequels. I can see what people love about the TX. There is really cool action. Nick Stahl's John Connor is not at all that bad. Arnold is a lot more interesting in this movie, but not by much. The TX is an underrated villain. Kick-ass CGI, but very depressing storytelling and confused tone shifts. The tone shifts are sloppy and very weird. This movie, not one of my favorites, but it does have some highlights. We'll put it on to meh. Then our greats. Salvation, I think this one's underrated. It's one that takes place in the actual apocalypse, so that's what made me kind of interested in seeing it. It's not one of the good movies, but I do think it's a guilty pleasure of mine. I like it. Christian Bale is badass. Marcus is a very interesting character. The CGI is definitely improved in this movie, and taking place in the Machine Wars was definitely an interesting idea, so I will defend that Salvation is a dumb fun action movie. But Sarah Connor Chronicles, yeah, it's awesome. Pretty fun, very creative, actually understood what made the Terminator franchise so fun, and Summer Glau's Cameron is iconic. I love her. That is a sexy robot, though Aya is much better, but Sarah Connor Chronicles, I would recommend checking it out. It is a pretty great show. Is the next list on Friday or Saturday? I'm aiming for Friday, but we'll see. That was fun. Can't wait for the next one. Thanks, Yara. Glad you showed up. Well, this was fun, Cat. Another good tier list. See you and Wolf next time in another tier list. Oh, by the way, don't miss on Bride of the Living Dummy. That's done and hopefully happening this week. I'm just calculating the days. Yep, it's done. Next tier list, I'm aiming for Friday. It might be Saturday depending on what happens. I do have a weird schedule at the moment, but yeah, Friday I'm trying to do something. Like I want to wait for the DC animated movie universe hottest female tier list. That would be pretty fun, but we'll see what happens. But last, awesome, of course, the first two, Terminator 1 and 2, they're both classics, they're legendary. I do prefer T2 more, but what can I say? That one pushed the boundaries that T1 set up. Both these legendary movies, sci-fi and horror classics, they are fun, creative, inventive, and just all around badass, and put Arnold Schwarzenegger on the map. That is how good these movies are. Highly recommend T1 and T2. They are pretty much the only ones you need to see. Sarah Connor Chronicles, this one you could see because it's also good, but these are peak masterpieces. They are awesome, but our number one has to go to Judgment Day because it is one of the greatest sequels of all time. So yeah, T2 is awesome, number one. Dark Fate, easily garbage. This franchise is in a dark fate thanks to this one. But yeah, that completes our tier list. The bad two are the ones you'd expected, and we got kind of a decent amount of good ones up here. Of course, Bride of the Dummy for June. That'd be fun. Alright, so, yeah, that pretty much completes our tier list. So I can't squeeze them all in here. I could delete a row, but yeah, I didn't want to be unfair to this ranking. So, take one last snapshot if you can't see. Thanks for joining me on these tier lists. They are pretty fun and have allowed me to pass judgment on film franchise a lot of people have been curious about. Really wanted to talk about Terminator because I do consider the first two horror movies. I know a lot of people would argue they're a different genre, but what can I say? I like doing these rankings and wanted to give my thoughts on a franchise I did know very well. Might do Elm Street soon, so hopefully that's our next tier list, but we'll see what happens. Got a lot of fun surprises for you, but don't worry, I'll set you guys free now. So thank you for joining us. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, or just tune in for more videos posted here on Wolf Entertainment. I'm your host, Catastrophe, and I'll be back.